Chapter 699. Most of the rich playboys in Hangzhou had heard of Wei Li's name, but they had never seen him. After all, Wei Li was not from the Dugu family, so more people knew Dugu Qingning than Wei Li. Fortunately, this playboy had met Wei Li and Dugu Qingning before. Consequently, he recognized Wei Li as soon as he walked out. However, it did not occur to him that Dugu Qingning would also be there. Among the younger generation in Hangzhou, these two were definitely the top ones. Who would dare to offend them? Wei Li's words meant that even if he was dissatisfied with Lin Zhe, he had to admit defeat today and pretend that nothing had happened. Maybe he would have to apologize to Lin Zhe in the future. It was easy for him to see that the young man who had helped Lin Zhe out of trouble was definitely not simple. Even Wei Li and Dugu Qingning had to smile respectfully. Who was he? Moreover, this man, whose identity and background were unknown, was very well behaved. He did not take advantage of his power to bully others. Instead, he convinced others with reason. What else did he want to say? The rich playboy muttered to himself, "Who on earth is this man? I have never seen or heard of him. What's the relationship between him and Lin Zhe?" Qin Sheng and the others left in a grandiose manner. Lin Zhe followed Qin Sheng subconsciously. At this moment, he did not know where he was going. He had to explain to Qin Sheng, in case Qin Sheng looked down on him again. Things were not what he had imagined. Qin Sheng seemed to feel that Lin Zhe was following him. He stopped and turned around directly. He stared at the timid Lin Zhe and said, "I don't have time to talk to you today. I'll talk to you another day. Now you'd better go back as soon as possible. Don't make a fool of the Lin family. Even I feel ashamed for you." Lin Zhe wanted to say something, but he did not have the courage to say it in front of Qin Sheng. To be honest, he really wanted to follow Qin Sheng. After all, Qin Sheng was accompanied by two rich playboys in Hangzhou. One was the well-known Wei Li, and the other was the young master of the Dugu family. They were all prominent figures. If he could get close to them, he would not be afraid of anyone in Hangzhou in the future. Lin Zhe was not curious about the reason why Qin Sheng was with them at all. It seemed that Qin Sheng had known Dugu Qingning before. As for how he got to know Wei Li, he had no idea. However, the current Qin Sheng was not the old Qin Sheng. He was the young master of the Qin family in Beijing. Numerous people wanted to flatter him and get to know him. It was not surprising that Dugu Qingning and Wei Li took him so seriously. Wei Li might not know who Lin Zhe was, since he did not have the time to know so many people. However, Dugu Qingning knew him. After all, Qin Sheng and Lin Zhe had fought fiercely at Third Master Wu's birthday party in Ningbo last year. It seemed that Lin Zhe was the brother of Qin Sheng's girlfriend. In that case, Lin Zhe was Qin Sheng's brother-in-law. No wonder Qin Sheng showed up just now. However, this brother-in-law was nothing in front of Qin Sheng. Obviously, Qin Sheng did not take him seriously at all. Since Qin Sheng had already said so, Lin Zhe smiled bitterly and said, "All right. I'll go back first. You guys go ahead." After saying that, Lin Zhe turned around and left. Anyway, he was relieved. He knew that Qin Sheng looked down on him from the bottom of his heart. In that case, he would not be shameless, in case Qin Sheng looked down on him more. After Lin Zhe left, Wei Li said with a smile, "Who is this? Do you need to clean up after me?" Qin Sheng let out a long sigh and said, "Well, it's a long story. Qingning, you should know him. He is my girlfriend's half-brother. He is a disappointing wastrel. If it were not for my girlfriend, I would not care about his life or death." It was only then that the others came to a sudden realization. However, they did not continue to dwell on this topic. Wei Li was deep in thought. Some time ago, he heard from a friend that Qin Sheng and the eldest miss of the Song family were getting closer and closer. He wondered how things were going now. Wei Li had met the Song family's eldest miss before, and he knew her background. Her grandfather was the only remaining senior figure, and her brother, Song Hushing, was like a crane in a flock of chickens among the younger generation. As for the Song family's eldest miss, she herself was even more amazing. Wei Li could not help thinking that if Qin Sheng and the eldest lady of the Song family got together in the end, it would be a true alliance of the strong. The rate of return of his investment would soar. After the interlude, they finally got in the car and left the Queen, heading toward the place that Dugu Qingning had mentioned. Wei Li and Dugu Qingning let Kai Yu and Qin Sheng sit in the same car on purpose. Then, they would sit in another car. Dugu Qingyu was afraid that Qin Sheng would take advantage of Kai Yu. After all, if a man and a woman sat together alone, who knew what they would do when they were drunk? Therefore, she wanted to sit in Qin Sheng's car. Unexpectedly, Dugu Qingning directly pulled her back and glared at her, telling her not to make trouble. After getting in the car, Dugu Qingyu finally could not help but ask, "Brother Wei Li, brother, can you tell me now? Why on earth did you treat Qin Sheng like this? He is just a loser. You know what happened in the past." Wei Li smiled and said, "Qingyu, do you think your brother and I are fools?" Dugu Qingyu did not know whether to laugh or cry as she said, "If you are fools, I am afraid that there are not many smart people in Hangzhou City." Dugu Qingning responded immediately, "Since you think that we are not fools, if Qin Sheng was just a loser, would we treat him like this? Qin Sheng is not the Qin Sheng in the past. Now, Qin Sheng is someone that both of our families have to look up to." Dugu Qingyu was shocked and said, "Is it really so exaggerated?" "It is not exaggerated at all. I will tell you some things later. Anyway, don't provoke Qin Sheng in the future. It is okay to make fun of him, but don't really offend him. Otherwise, it will not be good for your family. Don't you think that your brother-in-law is very powerful? In that case, even your brother-in-law has to lower his head obediently when he sees Qin Sheng." Wei Li explained in this way, and it seemed that Dugu Qingyu could understand. This time, Dugu Qingyu was really scared. Her face turned pale as she said, "Ah, he is really so powerful. Even my brother-in-law cannot compare with him. What on earth has Qin Sheng experienced?" Wei Li continued to explain, "Didn't I attend the senior seminar in the School of Economics and Management of Tsinghua University before the New Year? Any of the students in that class would absolutely shock people's families. Qin Sheng is also in that class, and his identity is the most prominent in that class." Dugu Qingyu did not know how important Qin Sheng was to him. Dugu Qingyu was more and more shocked, and she was extremely shocked. Dugu Qingning was already used to it. Anyway, he had to rely on Qin Sheng in the future. Wei Li wanted to reveal more information that even Dugu Qingning did not know, but in the end, he gave up, in case it was superfluous. In Qin Sheng's car, the atmosphere was relatively calm. Yang Dania drove quietly. Qin Sheng and Kai Yu, who were sitting in the back row, did not say anything. Kai Yu wanted to take the initiative to talk, but it seemed that Qin Sheng did not give her a chance. He kept looking out of the window. At this time, Qin Sheng suddenly opened his mouth and said, "Are you also guessing my identity? Who on earth am I? Why Wei Li and Dugu Qingning have to be so polite in front of me?" Qin Sheng suddenly opened his mouth, which shocked Kai Yu. She did not expect that Qin Sheng would say that. Kai Yu did not know how to answer him for a moment. She had never experienced such things. Thinking of these past events, Qin Sheng also felt it was quite funny. He said to himself, "About this time 1 year ago, I should have just arrived in Hangzhou. Before that, I was lying in bed for half a year. It was not an accident. I was beaten up by someone, and it could be said that I walked around the gate of hell. Are you surprised that someone dared to beat me up like that? Don't be surprised. At that time, I was really the loser that Dugu Qingyu said. Otherwise, how could she dare to treat me like that? My girlfriend was a lady from a wealthy family. She was the daughter of a wealthy family. At that time, I was just a loser. Therefore, her family looked down on me. Moreover, I had a very powerful rival in love. He was also the one who beat me up. As a result, my girlfriend gave up everything and hid her identity to take care of me for half a year. Don't you think it's my good fortune to meet such a woman? Thinking of this, Qin Shing could not help but smile. He was especially gratified and moved. Caillou did not say anything. She listened to Qin Shing's story quietly. No wonder when she had first met Qin Shing, she had felt that he was a man with a story. Qin Shing continued to say, "Why did I come to Hangzhou? Actually, my life was already very dark at that time. However, I just told myself silently that I was chosen by such a woman. If I, Qin Shing, did not work hard, I would really let her down." This was his biggest motivation at that time. During the time in Xiamen, Lin Su had really touched him. She had taken care of him silently without any complaint. Every day, she had accompanied him for walks, accompanied him for rehabilitation treatment, cooked for him, washed his clothes, and so on. Was this the life that a daughter from a wealthy family should have? Caillou could not help but ask, what happened after that? Qin Shing looked back at her. At this moment, Caillou had finally calmed down. She was not as impulsive as before. He continued, "After that, when I came to Hangzhou, I worked hard. She still accompanied me and found an ordinary job. What happened after that was very simple. My rival in love chased me all the way to Hangzhou. He worked together with two big shots in Hangzhou and directly drove me out of Hangzhou. He almost killed me." "Then why do you dare to come back now?" Caillou was very puzzled. Qin Shing laughed out loud and said, "Because I am no longer the Qin Shing in the past. Now, whoever sees me will regret what they have done in the past. Then, they will be afraid that I will take revenge on them. Let's not talk about this. Actually, what I said just now was not meaningful. I just think that you are a very good girl. Be obedient and study hard in class. Don't spend too much time in the society, and don't become the plaything of those big shots. Be obedient and wait for the man who can let you entrust your life to appear. No matter whether he is poor or rich, don't give up on him easily. Give him some time to prove himself," Qin Shing said sincerely. These words made Caillou feel a little touched. She said thoughtfully, "I think I am falling in love with you. The feeling of love at first sight. I forgot to say, don't be like a moth to the fire. In the end, the one who will be hurt will definitely be you. Moreover, how do you know that what I said is not a trap? You can believe anything, but don't believe a man's words. Actions are more important than anything else. The person who really likes you can really do a lot of things for you, and even give up a lot of things for you." Qin Shing did not expect Caillou to be so straightforward. This might be the way children at this age dealt with feelings. They thought that this was love, but in fact it was not. Caillou stared at Qin Shing's eyes and asked very seriously, "Really? Really, guarding your heart is more important than anything else," Qin Shing said calmly. Caillou was silent for a moment, thinking about what Qin Shing had said. She was a very smart girl. Of course, she could understand what Qin Shing had said, and also knew why he had said it. At this time, she really felt that everything that Qin Shing had done was not fake. Consequently, Caillou finally gave up those thoughts. She nodded very seriously and said, "Okay, thank you." Upon hearing this, Qin Shing smiled very happily. He knew that he might have changed the trajectory of Caillou's life inadvertently. This was quite good. Chapter 700. Some things women who were too outstanding were usually the most likely to go to extremes. They were either easy to be stupid or too smart. Caillou seemed to be the former kind. At first, she scoffed at Qin Shing, thinking that Qin Shing had been putting on an act and was too hypocritical. However, after a few words from Qin Shing, she fell in love with him directly. Was such a woman scary? Of course, Qin Shing guessed what she was thinking. That was why he said such words, so that she could recognize a lot of things and suffer less in the future. Fortunately, she met him, who did not have too many thoughts about her. If she met a man who had even a little bit of thoughts about her, she would probably have fallen for him by now. Actually, Caillou was not to be blamed for some things. It was just that this society was like this now. Most young people's values and so on had not been completely formed. After all, many things needed experience and structure, which were actually not easy. Therefore, when young people saw what this society was like, they gradually became like this. Until one day, when they experienced a lot of things and grew up and matured, they would regret the mistakes they had made and the stupid things they had done when they were young. They either regretted or regretted, but after all, it was all in the past, and they could not go back. In fact, Caillou was already very good. Most of the people she came into contact with were elites, so she naturally abandoned a lot of possibilities. However, the more she did so, the more dangerous it was, because her ability had her own halo. As long as there were men who chased after her, no matter how old they were, when they saw a beauty like her, they would subconsciously want to possess her. This was human nature. However, although Caillou had a pure heart, she was just a girl who had not graduated from college. How could she be a match for these wily old foxes who had been in society for many years? It was estimated that after a few tricks she might fall for them. For example, today, Caillou could avoid those men who were born with exposed shortcomings, but could she avoid a man like Qin Sheng who was sophisticated and sophisticated? Impossible. She wasn't that smart yet. Therefore, Qin Sheng gave her such a lesson so that she would not take a detour in the future. As for whether she could listen to it or just listen to it now and forget it in the future, it was up to her. Everyone would meet a lot of people in their life. No matter how capable you were, you couldn't arrange the lives of everyone you knew. This was impossible. Moreover, others might not appreciate it. What's more, I don't think they will appreciate it. It didn't take them long to get there. It was an open-air food stall. Duguqingning would come here a few times every summer, but he didn't come here often. Food stalls did not exist in the environment he was exposed to since he was a child. It was not until he ate it with his high school classmates that he realized how delicious it was. From then on, his understanding of food stalls and roadside stalls changed. Of course, he had diarrhea the first time. He was used to the delicacies of the land and the sea, but suddenly changed to the rough food stalls. His stomach, which was used to living like a prince, would definitely not be able to take it. Not to mention Duguqingning, Duguqingyu was also the same. In other words, Duguqingyu was even more pampered. After all, Duguqingning had suffered a lot later on. The family had deliberately allowed him to grow up freely and unrestrainedly in order to make him strong enough mentally so that he could take over the family in the future. This was the responsibility of the direct descendants of the Dugu family. As for Wei Li, he was considered a weirdo. He belonged to the category of people who matured early. Moreover, his IQ and EQ were especially high. He was full of curiosity about many things. His father was very lax in controlling him. Since he was a child, Wei Li had been exposed to many things. It was already very late, so there were not many people in the food stall. 5 or 6 luxury cars suddenly stopped on the side of the road, and a group of bright and beautiful men and women walked out of the cars. Especially those sexy beauties with different temperaments, it was really a pleasing scene to the eyes and heart. The people eating in the food stall were all stunned. Shouldn't such a scene only be seen in the office buildings of the CBD? They didn't care about the looks and thoughts of these ordinary people at all. In other words, they had long been used to it. Duguqingning called the boss over and set up 2 tables. They sat at one table and the others sat at another. As soon as Duguqingyu got out of the car, she asked Caillou, "Little Yuer, did this guy take advantage of you in the car just now?" Duguqingyu deliberately raised his voice. Apparently, he wanted Qin Sheng to hear him. Qin Sheng did not bother to answer her. He just followed Duguqingning and walked forward. Caillou did not know whether to laugh or cry as she said, "Sister Qingyu, he didn't. Did you misunderstand something? I think he is actually quite good." Upon hearing this, Duguqingyu was so angry that she said, Little you don't be fooled by him. He is very bad. Dugu Qingyu wanted to continue complaining. Unexpectedly, Dugu Qingning turned around and stared at her. She shut up immediately and did not dare to say anything else. She was not afraid of her grandparents, parents, uncles and uncles. She was afraid of this brother. Alas, he was her nemesis. After everyone sat down, they sat in the same position as they had in the bar. Kai still sat next to Qin Shing. When she looked at Qin Shing again, her eyes were not as cold as before. Instead, they were a little more gentle, which made Wei Li and Dugu Qingning feel a little confused. How long had it been? Was Qin Shing really so charming? Dugu Qingning did not come here often. Of course, the boss did not know him. They ordered some supper and beer casually. After that, they sat in the food stall and chatted. The atmosphere here was better than in the nightclub just now. Caillou had been taking care of Qin Shing. She poured wine and took food happily, as if she was Qin Shing's girlfriend. Dugu Qingyu was very angry, but she did not say anything. After Wei Li clinked his glass with Qin Shing's, he said, "When we have a chance, call Han Su and the others. Let's have a good gathering. I wonder how they are doing now." During the period when they had been in the Tsinghua University's seminar, they had been close to each other. However, Wei Li's social circle was larger. He was the social flower of the seminar and got along well with all the classmates. While eating the barbecue, Qin Shing replied, after Han Su went back from the seminar, he promised his father to work in the group. He started from the bottom. A few days ago, he called me and said that this job was very interesting. Although it was a little tiring, he had learned a lot. Wei Li laughed out loud and said, "That's good. I guess you have persuaded him a lot. His father must be secretly happy. This guy used to only know how to eat, drink and have fun. This time, he was forced to go to the seminar. I'm afraid that after 3 days, he will return to his previous life." Qin Shing replied calmly, "This time, it seems that he is serious. In fact, Han Su is quite smart. He is just not interested in the affairs of his family. But he will grow up eventually and he will pay a price." The others just listened quietly and did not say anything. Wei Li asked casually, "When will you go back to Beijing?" "At that time the group of people in the seminar in Beijing, will have a gathering?" Qin Shing said thoughtfully, "Yes. I'll go back after I finish the business in High City. Maybe I'll go back in advance." At this time, Qin Shing looked at Dugu Qingning and said, "Qingning, in the future, when you come to Beijing, we should keep in touch. Wei Li said that I'm the local tyrant in Beijing now. If I don't treat you well, he will probably blame me." Dugu Qingning said, "I'll definitely go there in the future. I'll drink with you then." Dugu Qingyu was not used to the current Qin Shing. She felt that he was not qualified to be on an equal footing with her two brothers, let alone ride on their heads. They talked about some other things. When it was almost time, they were ready to leave. After all, they would meet again tomorrow. They would talk about the details tomorrow. Before leaving, Caillou held Qin Shing's arm and said, "Will we meet again in the future? Or, can I chat with you?" Qin Shing did not agree, because many things might not go as he wished. So he replied, "Let it be." After that, Qin Shing got in the car and left with Yang Dainiu and the others. They did not leave until they saw Qin Shing off. Wei Li had arranged a car to send Kai Yu and the others back to school. It was too late for them to go back on their own. Seeing Kai Yu in a daze, Wei Li had a good impression of this cold and elegant girl. However, he was not crazy about women. On the contrary, he was a good man who cared about his family. Therefore, he just admired Caillou. Otherwise, he would not have asked Caillou to accompany Qin Shing. He would have taken her for himself. "What? You like him so soon?" Wei Li said half-jokingly. Caillou seemed to have been guessed. She said embarrassedly, "Brother Wei, don't make fun of me. Even if I like him, he may not like me. He has a girlfriend." Wei Li laughed out loud and said, That means I guessed it right. However, Caillou, I have to remind you. Just be friends with him. You can't catch some men. Duguqingyu snorted and said, I don't know what's so good about him. He just became a phoenix. Wei Li said casually, Qingyu, if you had been lovers when he was in Hangzhou, your Dugu family would have been a towering tree in Hangzhou or Zhejiang. Thinking of this, Wei Li seemed to recall a lot of things. He sighed and said, some men, when they are down or haven't made a name for themselves, you can't catch them. When they become successful or glorious, you can't get close to them anymore. However, there are too few women who can catch men like them. Most women in the world are too vulgar. Therefore, the world is controlled by men. Dugu Qingning agreed with this. This was also his experience over the years. The women behind those successful men were not simple. Wei Li got in the car first and left. He made an appointment with Dugu Qingning the next day. He would contact them by phone. Caillou and the others followed him and left. In the end, only the siblings of the Dugu family were left. Dugu Qingning said calmly, Qingyu, I won't talk about what happened today. Don't blame me. But it's not a bad thing to be polite to him when you see him in the future. Maybe we will have to ask him for help in the future. Dugu Qingyu was confused. However, there were some things that Dugu Qingning was not willing to tell her. For example, her sister's in-laws were in a bad situation now. If something bad happened to them, the Dugu family would suffer. At that time, who could help them? Genius 1 second to remember this website. Midnight Reading mobile version website. Chapter 701. Who else could it be? It was not that Dugu Qingning did not want to tell Dugu Qingyu. It was just that Dugu Qingning could not do anything about it. It was not something he could control. So what if he told Dugu Qingyu? Wasn't it just adding to her worries? It was good for her to be carefree like this, unless there came a day when the Dugu family had no other choice and had to use her as a shield. The reason why Dugu Qingning wanted to cooperate with Qin Xing this time was that her sister, Dugu Qinghe, had called her several times recently, asking her to be prepared in advance. There was something wrong with her in-laws. Both her father-in-law and husband had been very busy recently. Every time they came back, they would be exhausted. Moreover, it seemed that someone was monitoring their daily life. She had also inquired about it. It seemed that there were some rumors. Once there were rumors, there was a real possibility that something bad would happen. Not everyone could be as anxious as the Qin family. The interests involved in the Qin family were too complicated. It could be said that there were too many interest groups and family forces mixed in. But what about Dugu Qinghe's in-laws? They all went back to their own homes. Brother Wu had already arranged a place for Qin Xing to stay. It was not a hotel or a villa district, but a private courtyard located on Hupao Road. It was very private and safe. Sitting in the garden, one could overlook the entire West Lake scenic area. It was estimated that it must be very expensive. This was Brother Wu's personal relationship. He did not use the Qin family's resources. Qin Sheng was very satisfied with this place. He thought it was a holiday hotel, so he asked a few questions. Then he found out that it was a property bought by a friend of Brother Wu's father. However, no one had lived there for many years. However, there was still someone in charge of it. Usually, only friends who were on vacation in Hangzhou would stay there. That person had settled down in the United States. As for why he kept this place, no one knew. Maybe he really liked it. It was summer. It was not very hot. There was a slight breeze. Qin Xing did not rest from morning to night. Finally, he had time to chat with them. Brother Wu, Bok, Wang Jian, and Yang Daniu sat in the garden at the back, looking at the West Lake at night. It was dotted with stars. It was not bright, but it had a special taste. I won't be in Hangzhou for too long this time, maybe a few days or half a month, so we have to settle these things as soon as possible, Qin Xing said. After a few seconds of silence, Brother Wu replied, It seems that the problem of the Dugu family is not serious. We don't have much contact with Boss Hu. Wei Li said that Boss Hu doesn't seem to have many ideas. He said that not everyone can face Third Master Wu and the old monk directly. The two of them are deeply rooted in Zhujiang. They almost occupy half of the country. Hence, it will be very difficult and risky. The problem with the Dugu family isn't that big, but it's not certain how much the Dugu family will be able to contribute. Wang Jian added. He was only a lackey and did not participate in anything too deep, but he would still provide some suggestions. Qin Xing said thoughtfully, take advantage of the situation, take advantage of the situation. The word take advantage is very important. It must be very difficult for Boss Hu to agree now. Even the Dugu family will not take action easily. However, once something goes wrong with Third Master Wu, they will not stay silent. Therefore, although Shanghai and Hangzhou seem to be two different lines, they are actually one line. Zhou, young master, I Wu Wu. Wu. Zhou Wu Wu said. Qin Xing said, it is not certain yet, but we have a chance. Whether we can succeed or not, we still have to wait for the news. Young master, how are you going to talk to the Dugu family tomorrow? Wang Jian frowned and asked. He thought it would be easy, but now he felt that it was not so simple. Qin Xing continued, let's talk about the intention first. We can only act according to the situation. By the way, is there any movement from the old monk? Wu Wu said meaningfully, quiet, very quiet, so quiet that it is a little scary. There is no movement at all. It is said that the Yen family also looked for the old monk, but he rejected them directly. There must be something unusual. This is interesting, but it is still beneficial to us. If the old monk is also involved, we will be in big trouble. I hope we will not meet the old monk during this period in Hangzhou, in case he regrets it, Qin Xing said quietly, but he was still thinking about the old monk's movement. This did not seem to be the old monk's style. Wu Wu followed and said, young master, don't worry. We will continue to keep an eye on the old monk. If there is any movement, we will report to you in time. After talking about these things, Qin Xing arranged for someone to meet with him tomorrow. The others continued to do their own things. In the end, Qin Xing went back to his room to sleep. Before going to bed, Qin Xing called Lin Su because he saw that Lin Su had sent him a WeChat message. He guessed that Lin Su was still awake. After the call went through, Qin Xing found out that Lin Su had just come back from overtime. This made Qin Xing's heart ache. Naturally, he said some nice words. Although these words could not help Lin Su reduce her work pressure, it would definitely make her feel better. Finally, Qin Xing talked about meeting Lin Zhe tonight and asked Lin Su what her brother, Lin Zhe, was doing in Hangzhou recently. Lin Su frowned and said that she was not sure. She did not have much contact with this brother. Qin Xing did not say anything more, but he would definitely keep an eye on this guy later. Otherwise, if something really happened, Qin Xing would have to clean up his mess even if he did not want to. This was troublesome. The weather was good when he woke up in the morning. Qin Xing practiced martial arts in the yard for a while. Recently, he had been too busy and almost did not go to the gym. No wonder he was a little tired. After he was done with his work, he would have to make up for it. During the day, he stood in the yard and looked at the whole West Lake scenic area. The scenery was really beautiful. Qin Xing stayed for a long time before he went to the dining room for breakfast. The chef was hired from a nearby 5-star hotel. All the ingredients were prepared yesterday, so the breakfast looked very sumptuous. Qin Xing, who had a good appetite, ate a lot. Yang Dainiu even gobbled down the food. This guy's table manners could be compared with Qin Xing's. They set off for Shifeng, which was not very far away. It should be very close. The Dugu family could have a private manor here, which showed that they were really powerful. Of course, they only told the public that it was a tea garden. When Qin Xing arrived, Wei Li and Dugu Qingning were already there. Unexpectedly, Kai Yu was also here. Qin Xing really did not expect this. Could it be that this woman really fell in love with him and intended to fly into the fire like a moth? Caillou was the first to see Qin Sheng. She put down the drawing board in her hand and walked over with a smile. She said, "You did not expect this, did you?" Qin Sheng was a little embarrassed. "I did not expect this." Today, Caillou looked purer and cuter than last night. She was wearing a floral dress and slippers. It seemed that she did not have any makeup on. She was still beautiful. "Don't think too much. I happened to come here to sketch today. Some of my friends heard that you were coming, so I came to say hello to you." Caillou lied to herself. In fact, it was Duguqingning who told her that he would talk with Qin Sheng here today. That was why Caillou brought her classmates here to sketch. This reason just happened to not make Qin Sheng think too much. Qin Sheng did not bother to think about whether it was true or not. He smiled and said, "Oh, then you can draw well. You can also show me your work later." "Okay." Caillou nodded and did not disturb Qin Sheng anymore. She continued to sketch with her classmate. Qin Sheng walked directly to the viewing platform where Wei Li and Duguqingning were. From here, he could see all the tea garden. Although there was no lingering cloud and mist today, the scenery was still very beautiful. Today's meeting was different from yesterday. Everyone was very serious. Wei Li and Duguqingning smiled and said hello to Qin Sheng. There were only the three of them on the viewing platform. The others were waiting outside and would definitely not disturb them. After Qin Sheng sat down, he took the tea poured by Duguqingning and said directly, "Lao Wei, don't be polite. We are already familiar with each other. Let's get straight to the point." Looking at Duguqingning, Wei Li said, "Qingning, what I said in the past is what I said. Now, if you have any questions, you can ask Lao Qin directly. You don't need to be afraid of my existence. You don't need to think that things can't go well or that we can't be friends. These are not involved. The only thing I can say is that Lao Qin's business in Hangzhou is also my business. Our Wei family will definitely do our best to help him. You can talk about the rest." Wei Li was just a middleman. The rest of the things needed to be talked about face to face. No matter what he said, it would be useless. Duguqingning nodded seriously. Then he looked at Qin Sheng and said, "Master Qin, you also know that Third Master Wu has a lot of connections in Zhujiang. It is definitely impossible for our Dugu family to take the initiative to take action. Lao Wei said that Third Master Wu will be in trouble. At that time, our Dugu family will take action. I want to confirm this with you." Qin Sheng said calmly, "I know this. If I were you, I would not offend Third Master Wu rashly. The price to pay is too high. It is completely unnecessary. So you can be sure that as long as nothing happens to Third Master Wu, your Dugu family will not take action." Duguqingning continued, "Secondly, even if something happens to Third Master Wu, it is not to say that we are not a match for him with the power of the Dugu family. However, even if we can get benefits, we will pay too much. It is not worthwhile. So besides our Dugu family, do we have any allies?" Qin Sheng said with a smile, "Our Qin family will definitely be the main force. Wei Li will also help us. So the Dugu family is not the only one. Moreover, we are also contacting Boss Hu. I will tell you the details after I meet him." What Qin Sheng had said was within Duguqingning's expectation. Duguqingning continued to ask, "Also, how much benefits can our Dugu family get from Third Master Wu?" This was the most important thing. If there was no benefit, one would not get up early. After such a big scene, if they could not get anything in the end and paid too much, it would not be worth it. Qin Sheng already had a plan. He replied, "I can't guarantee this. How much benefits can your Dugu family get depends on your ability. Anyway, our Qin family will not take part in the matter of sharing the cake. We don't care about such a little benefit." Qin Sheng said this with confidence. It was nothing more than benefits. The Qin family's business was much bigger than this. They really did not care about it. Duguqingning frowned slightly but did not say anything. He would talk to his family about this. which was a little different from what he had expected. Dugu Qingning asked directly, "How likely is it that boss who will be killed?" Qin Shing replied, "I am not sure." Dugu Qingning continued to ask, "When will Third Master Wu be killed?" "I am not sure, but it will not be long." Dugu Qingning gritted his teeth and said, "One last question. Master Qin, please don't blame me for being suspicious. I just want to make sure. After all, this is not a small matter." Qin Shing said calmly, "Go ahead." Dugu Qingning said bluntly, "Master Qin, can you represent the Qin family?" Qin Shing laughed and said, "I represent the Qin family. If I can't do it, who can?" Chapter 702. Sooner or later Dugu Qingning was a little uneasy when he asked this question. He was worried that if he offended Qin Shing, he would not be able to be friends with him in the future, let alone cooperate with him. It was not because he was too cautious, but because it was possible. After all, he did not know what kind of person Qin Shing was. If Qin Shing was really sensitive, he might really get angry. Dugu Qingning had experienced this kind of thing before, so he was a little worried. However, Dugu Qingning had to ask this question, because it was definitely not a small matter. If the Dugu family chose to deal with Third Master Wu, they would definitely pay a high price. After all, Third Master Wu's influence in Zhujiang was deep-rooted. If he ended up empty-handed in the end, then the Dugu family's situation would become even worse. Then, the elders would definitely blame him. He did not want to be a sinner of the Dugu family, so he had to know the answer. If he could represent the Dugu family, could Qin Shing represent the Qin family? As for Qin Shing, he was not angry at all. He could understand Dugu Qingning's thoughts. If Dugu Qingning had agreed casually, Qin Shing would have been a little worried. Actually, when Dugu Qingning asked this question, Wei Li was also startled. It did not occur to him that Dugu Qingning would be so rash as to ask this question without discussing it with him at all. If Dugu Qingning was really angry, even he would be implicated. Fortunately, Qin Shing did not get angry and answered truthfully. After hearing this answer, Dugu Qingning nodded with a satisfied smile. From Qin Shing's answer, he could tell that Qin Shing was indeed very confident. Of course, whether he could really believe Qin Shing or not depended on what Qin Shing would do next. Dugu Qingning let out a long sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Master Qin, are you angry that I asked this question?" Qin Shing held the teacup and said calmly, "If I'm so stingy, you don't need to cooperate with me. This is the same as me asking Wei Li whether you can represent the Dugu family or not. We must be honest with each other, so that we can cooperate happily and avoid any problems in the future." Dugu Qingning also said happily, "Then I hope we can cooperate happily. I also hope that everything in Hangzhou will go smoothly." Qin Shing stood up and took the initiative to shake hands with him as he said, "Happy cooperation." For the rest of the time they talked about trivial things. Wei Li asked about Qin Shing's work in Shanghai. Qin Shing smiled and said that he was in charge of the restructuring of several financial companies of the Chang, a department in Shanghai, so he was quite busy on weekdays. He might not be able to handle it in a short time. Wei Li said to Dugu Qingning with a smile, "In that case, we can often go to Shanghai to visit Lao Qin. I'm quite familiar with Shanghai." They had lunch in this tea garden. As the host, Dugu Qingning took the initiative to entertain Qin Shing. He had prepared some exquisite Hangzhou dishes and many refreshments. As expected, Kai Yu stayed for lunch, while her classmates went back to school in advance. Wei Li took the initiative to create opportunities for the two of them. Qin Shing did not know whether to laugh or cry. He did not want to get involved in any more romantic affairs. Kai Yu was sitting beside Qin Shing. Qin Shing took the initiative to ask her, "How is it? Do you have any works today?" Kai Yu blinked and said, "Yes, but I can't let you see it." Qin Shing found it funny and said, "What works? You can't let me see it?" Kai Yu's words had aroused Qin Shing's curiosity. After thinking for a while, Qin Shing said, "If you let me see your works, I might introduce you to a master in the painting and calligraphy circle. It seems that the master's independent courtyard is in my Jiao. I think the people in the China Academy of Fine Arts should know who this master is, right?" The master Qin Shing was talking about was naturally Mr. Liu, a big shot in the painting and calligraphy circle. Qin Shing had visited Mr. Liu many times before, but they had not contacted each other since the accident. If he had time in Hangzhou this time, Qin Shing would also find time to visit him. Kai Yu was a top student in China Academy of Fine Arts and a disciple of several masters. How could she not know Mr. Liu's name? In recent years, Mr. Liu's paintings and calligraphy works had been sold at high prices. Kai Yu was surprised and said, "You mean Mr. Liu?" Qin Shing smiled faintly and said, "Even you know it. Then will you let me see it? I'm a semi-professional and can give you some comments." Kai Yu curled her lips. It seemed that she did not believe Qin Shing's words. After hesitating for a while, she decided to say, "I'll let you see it. You can't make fun of me." Qin Shing was surprised and said, "I won't." When Kai Yu took out the work she had just sketched, Qin Shing finally knew why Kai Yu had not allowed him to see it. It turned out that Kai Yu's work today was about him. The content was the scene when they had been chatting on the observation deck, just now. She had only simulated Wei Li and Dugu Qingning, and mainly described Qin Shing. Qin Shing didn't know what to say. Was he so charming? Why did this girl pay so much attention to him now? Did she really like him? Didn't she know that this kind of love was doomed to be fruitless? Wei Li also saw the works and muttered, "Kai Yu, I'm a little jealous. You're too partial. Why is Qingning and I so vague?" Kai Yu had a headache. If she had known this, she would not have taken it out. She had to explain in a hurry, "Brother Wei, don't think too much. I've painted too many works for you. I'm afraid you're all tired of them." Wei Li found it funny and said, "You're good at talking." After lunch, Qin Shing waved goodbye to Wei Li, Dugu Qingning, and the others. Kai Yu watched Qin Shing leave reluctantly until Qin Shing got in the car and drove out of the tea garden. Dugu Qingning sighed and said, I've tried my best. The rest is up to you." It could be seen that Kai Yu might have fallen in love with Qin Shing. Wei Li took the initiative to persuade her, "Kai Yu, it's okay if you like him. Don't take it seriously. Otherwise, you're the one who will be hurt. He is destined to be in a different world from you. Let bygones be bygones." Kai Yu didn't know what to say at the moment. She stood there feeling a little wronged. Maybe, as Brother Wei said, it was destined to be impossible. It was just her wishful thinking. Moreover, he already had a girlfriend, who was prettier and more outstanding than her. After Qin Shing left the Dugu family's manor, he went to Jiushi Rose Garden Villa. Since it was not far away, he wanted to visit Chao Da's family. They had been separated for more than half a year. After a few cars arrived at Jiushi Rose Garden, Brother Wu found a way to get the security guards to let them drive directly into the community. In the end, they stopped at a distance from the Chao family's villa. Qin Shing got out of the car and walked over. Yang Dainyu and Brother Wu followed behind him. The others stayed in the car. When Qin Shing walked to the entrance of the Chao family's villa, the door of the villa was unexpectedly open. On the lawn in the courtyard, Chao Da's concubine, Mi Na, was playing with her daughter, Chao Yu. There were also servants and nannies of the Chao family accompanying them. It was a happy and warm scene. Mi Na was still so sexy and charming. She was wearing a tight dress, showing off her perfect figure. This was something that the first wife could not compare with. Maybe she had already gotten over it. At least with Mi Na at home, Chowda would not go out to fool around. Otherwise, she would not be at ease. As Chao Yu was playing, she suddenly saw Qin Shing. This little girl was quick-witted and naturally recognized Qin Shing. It was just that she had not seen Qin Shing for a long time, so she was more or less unfamiliar with him. She stood there and stared at Qin Shing, looking silly and adorable. She was really cute. Mi Na, who was playing with her phone, found her daughter standing there in a daze. She smiled subconsciously and asked, "Baby, what's wrong with you?" Yu heard her mother's voice and turned around. Then, she pointed at Qin Shing, who was not far away. However, she did not say anything. Mi Na looked in the direction her daughter had pointed out with a face full of curiosity. As expected, she saw Qin Shing slowly walking over. Mi Na's smiling face froze in an instant. She covered her mouth and stared at Qin Shing, as if she couldn't believe what she had just seen. Qin Shing walked over slowly and said, "Second aunt, long time no see. You are still so beautiful." Mi Na still did not come back to her senses. She replied in a daze, You are Qin Shing. Why are you back?" Qin Shing laughed and said, "Second aunt, why can't I come back? I haven't seen you for more than half a year. This time, I had to go back to Hangzhou for something, so I came to see you on the way. Is Uncle Chow around?" Mi Na did not know how to greet him, because it was too sudden. She did not expect that Qin Shing, who had disappeared for a long time, would suddenly appear in front of her. It was too unbelievable. No wonder even her daughter was standing there in a daze just now. Mi Na pointed in the direction of the villa and said, He is inside. Second aunt, then you play with your first. I'll go in and see Uncle Chow first." Qin Shing smiled and nodded. Then, he walked straight into the villa. Yang Dainyu and Brother Wu stayed in the yard, and did not go in rashly. Naturally, nothing would happen to Qin Shing here. Mi Na stood there and watched Qin Shing walk away. She still could not believe it. She thought that she had seen the wrong person. In the living room of the villa, Chowda was reading the news on his phone. During this period of time, he had been very relaxed. Anyway, his business had been sold to others, and he only had a little family business left. Now, he did not have to worry about anything. He just had to wait for his son to graduate and take over. When Qin Shing walked in, Chowda did not hear him. He was getting older, and his hearing was getting worse. The nanny recognized Qin Shing and wanted to greet him, but Qin Shing signaled her not to speak. Then, Qin Shing slowly walked into the living room and saw Chowda looking at his phone. More than half a year had passed. Uncle Chow did not seem to have changed much except that he had become older. Qin Shing took a deep breath and then called out to Chowda, who was watching the news, "Uncle Chow." Chowda was shocked when he heard the voice. He was about to complain about who did not know the rules, but when he looked up and saw that it was Qin Shing, Chowda was instantly stunned. Qin Shing? However, Chowda's reaction was not as slow as Mi Na's. He quickly came back to his senses. He was not surprised that Qin Shing would suddenly come back, because it would happen sooner or later. He had been waiting for this day, because he knew that Qin Shing was not dead. Therefore, Chowda just smiled and said, "You're back." Chapter 703. Take a Gamble. Mina was just a woman who lived like a princess. Of course, she was a little shocked to see Qin Shing all of a sudden. However, Chowda was a man who had been through great storms and waves. He was not too surprised by such a small thing. It was just that it was so sudden that he was slightly surprised. Chowda should be the first to know that Qin Shing was not dead. After all, when Qin Shing came to Hangzhou, it was he who had discussed with Zhuangzhou. During the period when Qin Shing was in Hangzhou, Chowda would also tell Zhuangzhou immediately if there was any movement, because he knew that Zhuangzhou represented Qin Chanan. At that time, Chowda knew better than anyone else what had happened to Qin Shing. He also knew that the Qin family had let Qin Shing go free behind the scenes, but at the same time, they had been keeping an eye on him in secret. Consequently, Chowda had not intervened and allowed Qin Shing to leave Hangzhou. Later, Chowda also knew about the process of the chase and escape. This was all told by Zhuangzhou. Therefore, he knew that Qin Shing was not dead immediately. Later, Zhuangzhou told Chao De that the Qin family had already taken Qin Shing back to the Qin family. Qin Shing was no longer the Qin Shing from before. From now on, Qin Shing was the eldest young master of the Qin family, as well as the only heir of Qin Chang'an and the Qin family. Chao De was very happy about this news. It meant that Qin Shing's efforts in Hangzhou would finally be rewarded. However, to Chao Da's surprise, there was no news of Qin Shing after that. Qin Shing had not contacted him since then, let alone going back to Hangzhou to see him. He believed that with Qin Shing's current status, those enemies in Hangzhou would not dare to do anything to Qin Shing at all. Otherwise, what awaited them would be the Qin family's monstrous rage. Unconsciously, it was already the end of May. More than half a year had passed, but Qin Shing still did not contact him. This made Chao De wonder if Qin Shing misunderstood him, or if there was something else. Especially during this period, those forces in Hangzhou suppressed him, so he had to choose to quit Jianghu. He sold almost all his businesses, leaving only the food and beverage business that Qin Shing was in charge of at that time and a live house. Chao De believed that the Qin family definitely knew what had happened to him, but they did not choose to help him. This made Chao De a little surprised and a little angry. However, Chao De did not take the initiative to ask the Qin family for help, because Chao De believed that as long as Qin Shing came back, the Chao family would definitely rise again. However, at that time, it would be his son's business, which had little to do with him. He was already old. Some time ago, when Anji, Yu Fengji and Liu Yuan collectively resigned and returned to Shanghai, Chao De knew that Qin Shing might have arrived in Shanghai, although they used other reasons and excuses. All along, Chao De had not deliberately inquired about Qin Shing's news. He believed that his previous efforts would definitely be rewarded. The Qin family had not helped him and Qin Shing had not contacted him. They definitely had their reasons. However, these were all things that would happen sooner or later. Therefore, Chao De just went with the flow. Now, Qin Shing had finally appeared. The thing that Chao De had been thinking about had finally been settled. "You're back." Chao Da's calmness was within Qin Shing's expectations. After all, he already knew that Chao De was merely a pawn of the Qin family. Back then, everything he had done in Hangzhou was instructed by the Qin family. Chao De slowly stood up and walked over. He said, "Then sit down. You're not an outsider, so I won't stand on ceremony with you." Qin Shing smiled and sat next to Chao De. At the same time, he asked the maid to pour tea for Qin Shing. At this time, Mi Na came in with Yura. She finally came back to her senses and returned to normal. She greeted him very politely. "Qin Shing, when did you return to Hangzhou? I haven't seen you contact us for such a long time. Is there anything wrong?" Mi Na was more approachable. In the past, she got along very well with Qin Shing. They treated each other like friends. After all, their age difference was not big, so there was no generation gap. When Qin Shing got along with Chao Da's wife, he had to treat her like an elder. He was more well-behaved and cautious. "I just came back yesterday. Today, I came to visit Uncle Chao. More than half a year has passed without me noticing." "I don't know how you've been," Qin Shing replied with a smile. Although Mi Na knew that Chao De had left in low spirits due to his career, she could not say this in front of outsiders. She just replied, "We're still the same. Everything is good. We don't have to worry about food and clothing. I just don't know how you've been during this period of time." Qin Shing glanced at Chao De and said, "Second aunt, I'm doing well. I did encounter some problems in the past, but they've all been resolved. Uncle Chao knows about this." Oh, that's good. That's good." Mi Na smiled faintly. Since Mi Na was here, Chao De could not talk about business with Qin Shing. He waved his hand and said, "You take Yura out to play. I have something to talk to Qin Shing about." Mi Na nodded. After she said goodbye to Qin Shing, she left with her daughter. "It's been so long since you came back to Hangzhou. I guess you already know what happened in the past. Do you have a grudge against me and blame me for hiding it from you? Chowda went straight to the point. He had no desire for anything, so there was no need to hide it. Otherwise, it would make Qin Shing uncomfortable. Chow Da's straightforwardness was exactly what Qin Shing wanted. Qin Shing smiled and said, "To be honest, I was a little resentful at the beginning. But this resentment was not towards you, Uncle Chow. It was only towards the old man. Later on, I figured out a lot of things, so I didn't have any resentment. After all, it's not up to you. Anyway, I'm still very grateful to Uncle Chow for taking care of me in the past. The reason why I came back so late was that I was always entangled with various things." "You really don't have any resentment?" Chowda asked again. Qin Shing laughed and said, "I really don't have any resentment. Uncle Chow, you don't have to doubt this. If I really had resentment, I wouldn't have come to see you. After all, it's between you and the old man. In the end, it has nothing to do with me." Since Qin Shing had said so, Chowda was relieved and said, "That's good." When they met again, their status was not the same as before. However, even at that time, Chowda was still very respectful to Qin Shing. In the eyes of outsiders, this was not the attitude of an elder to a junior. It was more like the way between friends. As for the reason, only Chowda himself knew at that time. Now, when Chowda faced Qin Shing again, he really had to be polite. This was the young master of the Qin family, the successor of Qin Chang'an. Chowda asked casually, "So, did you come back to Hangzhou for something this time, or did you just come back to have a look?" Qin Shing said thoughtfully, "I haven't come back for a long time. It just so happens that I have something to do, so I came back to have a look. Some stories of the old places and old people need to be explained from the beginning to the end, and some at least need to be settled." After hearing this, Chowda was very clear about what Qin Shing came back for. Obviously, he was going to take revenge. However, Chowda did not know about these things that happened during this period. At the same time, he did not care about them. He turned a deaf ear to what was going on outside and focused on drinking tea and growing flowers. Chowda kindly reminded, "I can't help you now. You must be careful. Those people are not ordinary. They are all experienced in Jianghu." Qin Shing asked with interest, "Uncle Chow, you don't have to worry about these. I have made some preparations. However, I heard that Uncle Chow almost sold all his businesses under the pressure of several forces. Now that I am back, I will definitely help Uncle Chow vent his anger. At that time, I will give Uncle Chow a share of the cake. You don't need to do anything. Just take it as me returning your favor." Qin Shing's words were very straightforward. After all, Chowda was an old fox for many years. How could he not understand what Qin Shing meant? What Qin Shing meant was that he came back for revenge. As for how he would do it, Chowda did not know. However, since Qin Shing was so confident, it meant that he was almost ready. In that case, someone would definitely fall at that time. It would be either Third Master Wu or the old monk, or both of them. After they fell, there would probably be many people who coveted such a big share of the cake. Then, Qin Shing asked him if he would like to eat a piece. As long as he nodded yes, Qin Shing would definitely save a piece for him. It was estimated that this piece of cake would not be small. It would definitely be more than what he had lost over the years. After all, Qin Shing said that he was returning his favor. However, Chowda was already old and did not have that kind of ambition. Now that the tide had completely ebbed, there was no need for him to go to the sea to make trouble, in case he did not even know how he died at that time. He only had his son to rely on. At the same time, he wanted his son to take a different path. Therefore, Chowda refused tactfully. "Forget it. I have already retired. I don't want to get involved in these trivial things. Just leave it to those powerful big shot." Qin Shing was very surprised by Chow Da's refusal. However, since he had already said so, Qin Shing did not insist. However, How could he return the favor that he owed the Chao family? Chowda said directly, Qin Shing, I know you want to return the favor. However, I am really old. There is no need for me to make trouble anymore. If you really want to return the favor, help Chao Zhang more in the future on my behalf. As an old man, I am not capable anymore. Qin Shing immediately understood what he meant and asked, Uncle Chao, do you have any arrangement for Chao Zhang? I don't have any arrangement. But I don't have anything else now except a pile of money lying in my bank account. He can do whatever he wants in the future as long as he likes it. Anyway, I will support him. But I believe that as long as he follows you, he will definitely make a profit. Chowda said it more euphemistically this time. That's right. Qin Shing instantly understood that Chowda wanted to use this favor to tie his son, Chao Zhang, to the big boat of the Qin family and the Chang and family in the future. This seemed to be a long-term plan. After all, he was the future helmsman of the Chang and family and the Qin family. It had to be said that Chowda was very far-sighted. However, now the Chang and family and the Qin family were already in a precarious situation. If it was in the past, Qin Shing could understand it. However, at this time, it did not seem to be a wise move to choose the Qin family and the Chang and family. Qin Shing asked directly, Uncle Chao, I think you should know the situation of our family during this period. If you make such a choice, aren't you afraid that your efforts will be in vain? Chowda replied very calmly, Qin Shing, how can I not know? Which drinking party and dinner table do you want to talk about your family's affairs? However, most people's success is nothing more than winning the gamble at the most critical points. These years, I have been through the same thing. So why don't I gamble again this time? If I win the gamble, in the future, the Chao family will really be successful with the Qin family. If I lose the gamble, it doesn't matter. The children and grandchildren will have their own happiness. I have left him so much money. What he can do is his own business. If he can't do it, he can just sit there and wait for death. Qin Shing shook his head and smiled bitterly as he said, It seems that Uncle Chao has already thought about it. You are just waiting for me. Otherwise, how could Chowda say it so naturally today? Chowda did not deny it. He smiled and said, Not everyone can have this favor. Of course, I have to think about how to use it. Don't blame me for being realistic. Qin Shing kindly reminded him, It's human nature. I can understand. But I still hope that Uncle Chao will think about it again. Chowda directly refused. It is a gamble. If I still think about it, it is not a gamble. Since Chowda had made up his mind, Qin Shing could not say anything more. As for the so-called benefits, he did not care about it. These years, he had been following the Qin family and the Chang and family to enjoy meat and soup. It did not matter who he gave it to. Qin Shing said firmly, Since Uncle Chao is so determined, I agree. If the Qin family and the Chang and family are lucky enough to pass the test, I will definitely not treat the Chao family badly. Anyway, he had completely returned the favor today. Chowda smiled. It could be said that he had paved the way for his son. This was his last ability as a father. Chapter 704. It's up to you. Any father would want to arrange a backup plan for his children. Qin Chanan was like this, and so was Chowda. It was just that they were at different levels, had different strengths, and had different abilities. From Chowda's rise to the pinnacle of his family to where he was today, his journey could be said to be bumpy. But at least he had successfully washed his name clean and returned to the shore. How could he get involved in such muddy waters of the Jianghu again and leave too many unpredictable risks for the future? His son, Chao Zhang, had almost never touched these things. If he were to join in at this time, even if he didn't have to do anything and only needed to eat a piece of cake with abundant benefits, Chao Zhang would still refuse without hesitation. Because once he got involved in these things, it would be very difficult for him to get away. At that time, Chao Zhang would not be able to take over at all. In the end, these benefits would be given to others. Why bother? On the contrary, he used this favor on the Qin family. It did not matter whether the Qin family could get through the storm in the end. As long as this favor was still there and the two families continued to interact, with the Qin family's accumulation over these years, they were much more powerful than the Chao family. Then the Chao family could just follow behind and eat the soup. His son, Chao Zhang, definitely had this ability. After confirming this matter, Chowda was in a good mood. All the troubles during this period were thrown out the window. He wanted to have a good talk with his son, Chao Zhang. Qin Xing said, "In Hangzhou, among the younger generation, Wei Li has a good relationship with me. Now we are allies. The Dugu family has also signed on, so Chao Zhang does not need to mingle in Hangzhou anymore. No matter how he mingle, he will just eat dust behind them. Anyway, I will bring Chao Zhang to get familiar with them. In this way, at least in Hangzhou, we can take care of each other." Chowda was a little surprised. He did not expect Qin Xing to cooperate with the Wei clan and the Dugu clan so quickly. However, after thinking about it, he could not treat Qin Xing as the Qin Xing of the past. Now, Qin Xing represented the Qin clan. These two people probably could not wait to befriend Qin Xing. Chowda was very clear about the status of the Wei family and the Dugu family. In Hangzhou and Zhujiang, they were at the level of towering trees. In particular, after the Wei family had weathered that crisis, they had begun to have a second spring. Now, they were closely connected to that famous person in Hangzhou and had laid out plans for the whole country. Their future was limitless. Since Qin Xing had said so, of course, Chowda would listen to him. As long as Chao Zhang built a good relationship with these two people in Hangzhou, there would not be any trouble. "I'll listen to you. You should be thinking more than me." Chowda nodded. Qin Xing continued, "So I don't want Chao Zhang to stay in Hangzhou. After he graduates from the university, he can go directly to the headquarters of the Chang'an group for training. He will stay in Beijing for 5 years. At the same time, he will take the postgraduate exam at Tsinghua University. After 5 years, he will come back to Hangzhou to take over. I think that 5 years is enough for him to build up his own network in Beijing. When he comes back to Hangzhou, won't it be easy?" Compared to the path that Chowda had paved for Chao Zhang, this path had a brighter future. Hence, after Chowda heard Qin Xing's words, his eyes lit up. Qin Xing had done the Chao family a big favor for free. It seemed that Qin Xing had been really lucky back then. That was why Qin Chang'an had chosen him to train Qin Xing. "As you said, I will have a good chat with him later," Chowda said thoughtfully. Qin Xing continued, "He still has time to adjust his state. Not everyone can go to the headquarters of the Chang'an group. Even if he goes there, I don't know what he will be like. I won't help him at that time. So during the period before he graduates, let him work hard to enrich himself. Otherwise, when he embarrasses himself there, it will be Uncle Chao's face that he will lose. You don't have to worry about this. Chao Zhang is still working hard. He is not the kind of rich playboy who only knows how to eat, drink and have fun. During this period, he has been working hard," Chowda said solemnly. They had talked about what needed to be talked about. There was not much greeting and reminiscing about the past. For the current Qin Xing, those things in the past did not matter. Moreover, those things with Chowda were all arranged by the Qin family. It was not interesting to talk about them. Qin Xing asked with a smile, "Is First Aunt here?" She went to Hong Kong with a few friends these days. Apart from shopping and buying things, she doesn't worry about anything. If it weren't for Mina, I don't know how messy this family would be, Chowda said in a bad mood. As for the Chow family's affairs, Qin Xing did not bother to comment. His first wife, Ji Min, was born in a rich family and had never suffered any grievances. The reason why he agreed to let Me Na marry into the family was that he wanted to worry less. He could let Me Na handle the family affairs. She only needed to show her face in front of the stage. I am going to stay in Hangzhou for a few days. She should be back in 2 days. At that time, we will invite you at home to draw a perfect end to the past. Chowda took the initiative to invite Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng thought for a moment and smiled. I will be in Hangzhou during this period. Let's contact each other by phone when first aunt comes back. I miss them a little. It was almost time. It would be meaningless to stay any longer. Qin Sheng's time in Hangzhou was relatively precious. After saying goodbye, Qin Sheng stood up and was ready to leave. Chowda walked Qin Sheng out personally. Mina, who was in the yard outside, saw that Qin Sheng was about to leave. She hurried over and said, Qin Sheng, what's wrong? You're leaving so soon? I haven't had a good chat with you. Second aunt, wait for me to come over next time. I will have a good chat with you. There are a lot of things to do today, so I just came over to report, Qin Sheng said with a smile. Mina said politely, Okay, then I will wait for you. If you need anything in Hangzhou, feel free to call me. Don't forget that this is also your home. Whether it was polite or sincere, this kind of words made people feel very comfortable. Qin Sheng touched Yu-er's head and smiled. Yu-er, I am leaving. Yu-er was still not used to Qin Sheng. Although she used to play with Qin Sheng often, a child was a child after all. So she hugged her mother and hid. Qin Sheng laughed and continued to walk out. As soon as the crowd reached the entrance, they saw Chao Zhang driving his bright red Ferrari back. After getting off the car, he was obviously a little surprised to see so many people at the entrance. Following that, he seemed to recognize Qin Sheng and walked over excitedly. However, before he could reach Qin Sheng, he was stopped by Yang Daniu and Brother Wu. Chao Zhang looked unhappy. He did not know what was going on. After Qin Sheng waved his hand, Yang Daniu and Brother Wu let Chao Zhang walk over. Chao Zhang was not angry because of this. He just shouted excitedly, Qin Sheng, why are you here? Maybe because he was too happy, Chao Zhang used to call Qin Sheng Brother Qin. Today, he called Qin Sheng. After Chowda heard that, he scolded, Don't be rude. Call Qin Sheng Brother Qin. Qin Sheng shook his head and said with a smile, It's okay. Names are for people to call. Chao Zhang also reacted and quickly changed his words. Brother Qin, I am sorry. I was too excited. I did not expect to see you today. Qin Sheng patted Chao Zhang's shoulder and smiled. Long time no see. You have put on weight recently. You only know how to eat and drink every day. It would be strange if you are not fat. Chowda laughed and scolded him. However, he was satisfied with his son and did not make him worry too much. Qin Sheng already had an appointment with his friends, so he did not intend to stay for too long. He said directly, I will talk to you next time. I have something to do today. I will leave first. You are leaving so soon? Chao Zhang said in surprise. He originally wanted to have a good chat with Qin Sheng. At this time, the 2 cars of the Qin family had arrived. After Qin Sheng said goodbye to the Chao family, he directly got in the car and left. Although the 2 luxury cars were not worth more than $1 million, it was nothing for the Chao family. The cars in the garage of the Chao family added up to more than 10 million. However, the people around Qin Sheng were obviously not ordinary people. Chowda, who had retired from Jianghu, knew better than anyone else. Chao Zhang could also feel it. After Qin Sheng left, Chao Zhang, who was standing at the door, frowned and asked, Dad, why did Qin Sheng suddenly come back? He has changed a lot. He is like a different person from before. Chao Zhang called Qin Sheng's name again. Chao Zhang was very clear about what this guy was thinking. He probably thought that no matter how powerful Qin Sheng was, he was just a subordinate of the Chao family. As the young master of the Chao family, he called Qin Sheng Brother Qin to give him face. Directly calling Qin Sheng by his name was not doing anything at all. Chowda scolded, I will say it again. In the future, whether in front of others or behind my back, call me Brother Qin. Don't let me hear you call Qin Shing by his name again. Also, from today on, whenever you see Qin Shing, you must be respectful. Don't think that he was just working for the Chow family. Isn't it just a name? Is it so serious? Mi Na was somewhat puzzled. Chao Zhang was also unconvinced. Dad, do you have to do this? I am your son. Do you have to scold me like this for an outsider? Chao Da let out a long sigh and said, I said this for your own good. You have also felt that Qin Shing is not the Qin Shing in the past. There are some things that I can't tell you now. You will naturally know in the future. But I can let you know that in the future, how far we can go and how high we can stand depends on how much Qin Shing is willing to help us, because now his identity is the young master of the Qin family in Beijing. Mi Na and Chao Zhang were shocked at the same time. Although they did not know how important the young master of the Qin family in Beijing was, Chao Zhang had already felt how powerful Qin Shing was from his father's words. No wonder the boss paid so much attention to him. No wonder he felt a little strange just now. Chao Da was afraid that Chao Zhang did not know how important he was, so he continued to say, among the rich playboys in Hangzhou, Wei Li from the Wei family is very powerful, right? You should have heard a lot about Dugu Qingning from the Dugu family. But in front of Qin Shing today they also have to be respectful. You tell me, who are you? This time, Chao Zhang was really shocked. These two were well-known figures in this big circle in Hangzhou. Everyone had to be polite to them. It did not occur to him that Qin Shing was even more powerful than them. This was too incredible. Dad, Qin. Chao Zhang almost called out Qin Shing's name again. He hurriedly corrected himself and said, What on earth did Brother Qin go through? How could he be so powerful? Chao Da stared at Chao Zhang and said, It's not what he went through. It's what he should have. From today on, throw away your messy things and study hard to enrich yourself. After graduation, you will follow Qin Shing to Beijing. I have paved the road that should be paved, and I have tried my best. What I can achieve depends on you. As for how far the Chao family can go, it also depends on you. Chao Zhang instantly felt the pressure falling from the sky. He had never felt like this before. His father had never said something like this, either. He was stunned for a moment and did not know what to say. Chapter 705. Who are you to control me? Chao Zhang had been specially trained by Chao Da since he was a child. For example, Chao Zhang had attended the company's management meetings since high school. Just like Hao Lin she had wanted to train him in the past, Chao Zhang had wanted to let him get in touch with the company's affairs at an early age. After he had familiarized himself with such an environment, he would be able to get twice the results with half the effort when he entered the company in the future. However, Chao Da's training of Chao Zhang was naturally not as crazy as the Dugu family. Therefore, Chao Zhang's life after university was more relaxed. Other than basic studies, it was more about eating, drinking, having fun, and socializing. Who asked university to be more comfortable? However, Chao Da had never been as serious as he was today. He directly gave Chao Zhang an order, telling him what to do. Chao Zhang was very shocked. Was it because of Qin Shing? Chao Zhang thought to himself, is it because of him? However, Chao Zhang could also feel the crisis of the Chao family. This had to be said after his father sold the company. If nothing had happened, his father would not have made such a decision. Therefore, during this time, Chao Zhang was relatively working hard. If he didn't work hard, his father would really be disappointed. Chao Zhang said somewhat reluctantly, Dad, you don't have to be so dramatic. From the moment you sold the company, I knew that something must have happened to our family. I have been working very hard during this period of time. But I still want to stay in Hangzhou to develop my career in the future. In this way, I can also take care of you. Chao Da said unhappily, Your mother and I are still young. Besides, your second mother will take care of us. You don't need to worry about us. Also, don't you know that not everyone can ride on the Qin family's big boat? How many people could not even buy a ticket after racking their brains and racking their brains? You only have such a chance because Qin Shing owes us a favor. That's why I used this favor to exchange for your future. 5 years. 5 years in Beijing is more useful than 20 years in Hangzhou. Some thresholds cannot be crossed no matter how hard you work. Qiao Zhang was rendered speechless by his father's words. He was not used to his father's attitude, which was very overbearing and powerful. He did not allow him to say no. As long as he dared to refute, his boss would probably reprimand him immediately. However, Qiao Zhang was not a good-for-nothing. He had already figured out the logic from his father's words. That was, Qin Sheng was very powerful now, and the Qin family behind him was very powerful. The Qiao family was at a low point now. If they wanted to rise again in the future, they could only rely on the Qin family. However, his father was old and had lost his ambition, so the future of the Qiao family was handed over to him. Qiao Zhang had no room to refuse because he still had 2 younger sisters. His father was waiting for him to express his opinion. Obviously, he didn't give him time to think. It seemed that the decision had been made whether he agreed or not. Qiao Zhang didn't want to make him sad, so he directly nodded and said, "Dad, I promise you. I won't let you down. You've made our family what it is today. Leave the future of the Qiao family to me." At this moment, Qiao finally took his son seriously. He felt that this was the responsibility that a man of the Qiao family should have. Qiao Zhang secretly swore in his heart. Wasn't it just 5 years? He didn't believe that with his ability, he wouldn't be able to put on a show. After Qin Shing left Jiushi Rose Garden, he returned to the courtyard over there. In the afternoon, he wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with his brother-in-law. If this went on, Qin Shing was really afraid that he would lose his face. After all, Lin Su was going to marry him in the future. Qin Shing originally planned to look for Lin Zhe in a few days. Who knew that he would take the initiative to contact Qin Shing, which surprised Qin Shing a little. His courage was commendable. Was he not afraid that he would beat him up? It was still in the back garden of the courtyard. Lin Zhe drove there alone without bringing anyone. Compared to his domineering attitude in the past, he was considered to be low-key now. Of course, he would occasionally be low-key, but it was much better than before. Brother Wu brought Lin Zhe to the back garden. He already knew the identity of this man, but it had nothing to do with him. This was all Qin Shing's private matter. After seeing Qin Shing, Lin Zhe deliberately teased him. "This place of yours is not bad." Qin Shing frowned slightly. If Lin Zhe used this tone to talk to him in the past, Qin Shing would not be surprised at all. At that time, Lin Zhe had never taken him seriously. However, after what happened in Ningbo, Lin Zhe was like a mouse seeing a cat whenever he saw him. He did not dare to be as respectful and well-behaved as he used to be. Today, he returned to the way he used to be, which was interesting. Qin Shing wanted to see what he was up to. He very calmly said, "Take a seat." Lin Zhe dared to take the initiative to look for Qin Shing today, which meant that he did not intend to be afraid of Qin Shing. He was very clear in his heart that if he continued to be like this brother-in-law of his would really look down on him from the bottom of his heart. Therefore, he had to look up to himself first, so that they could continue to get along in the future. The servant of the courtyard brewed tea for Lin Zhe. There were also many fruits and refreshments on the table. Lin Zhe randomly picked up a banana, directly peeled it, and directly ate it. He did not care about the look of Qin Shing and the others at all, and did not care about it at all. Brother Wu could not sit still anymore. They were both from rich playboys, but he had never seen such an arrogant person. Qin Shing was not angry at all. He casually waved his hand to signal them to calm down, and let Lin Zhe continue to perform. After eating a banana, Lin Zhe said, I know you look down on me. If it were not for Lin Su, you probably would not even look at a rich playboy like me, who just eats and waits for death. But there is no other way. I am Lin Su's brother, the eldest son of the Lin family. No matter how disgusting you are, you still have to face it. Qin Xing squinted and said, We have the same father but different mothers. Lin Zhe said confidently, We are related by blood even though we have the same father but different mothers. To be honest, after what happened in Ningbo, I was indeed a little afraid of you. But last night I figured it out. Why should I be afraid of you? You can look down on me, but it has nothing to do with me. At worst, we won't see each other again. You are the superior young master of the Qin family, and I can be a rich second generation who is just eating and waiting to die. Qin Xing laughed and said, What? Last night, I made you lose face in front of so many people, and today you come to me to lay your cards on the table? Is that all you've got? Qin Xing's words made Lin Zhe's expression change. He plucked up his courage and said, What I do has nothing to do with you. What right do you have to control me? Why? Because your family name is Lin. If you were not Lin, if you were not Su Su's brother, of course I would not care about you. Otherwise, I would not let you embarrass the Lin family outside. You really think you are somebody? Do you really think I will ignore you because of your words? Fine, if you want me to let you go like a fart, you can either change your name to not be Lin, or emigrate to a foreign country. Out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind. Otherwise, work hard and don't embarrass the Lin family again. He did not believe that Lin Zhe could play any tricks and was qualified to lay his cards on the table and negotiate with him. What a joke. Lin Zhe was so angry that he almost went berserk. He shouted, You, what? Are you angry? Do you want to beat me? You can try. Do you really think you are somebody? Believe it or not, I will break your legs and let you spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair. I will see how you can make trouble outside. Qin Xing threatened him. What Qin Xing said directly extinguished all the courage that Lin Zhe had worked hard to summon. He did not expect that Qin Xing would be so domineering. He also believed that Qin Xing really dared to do that. He knew better than anyone else how Lin Songhao got into the prison in the end. Qin Xing did not bother to say anything more to him. He replied, Tell me, what are you doing in Hangzhou this time? If you want to eat, drink, and have fun, go back to Ningbo. If you really have nothing to do, go to Shanghai to help. There are so many things to do in Shanghai. Do you really think Su Su is a professional manager? Qin Xing had already given Lin Zhe a way out. After hearing that, Lin Zhe did not dare to continue the previous topic. He said in a hurry, I did not come to Hangzhou to eat, drink, and have fun. Second uncle asked me to come to Hangzhou to talk about something. Talk about something? Do you really think that I did not see what you looked like in the Queen last night? You have a bunch of scoundrels and a bunch of friends. Is this how you talk about something? Qin Xing snorted. Lin Zhe continued to explain, Qin Xing, you are too meddlesome. Can't I have a few friends? Aren't you the same? Okay, then let's forget about this. What happened at the entrance of the bar? Qin Xing saved Lin Zhe's face this time, and did not continue to ask. Lin Zhe frowned slightly and said, A company of the Lin family in Hangzhou is in trouble. Second uncle asked me to negotiate with the other party on behalf of the Lin family and prepare to withdraw the investment of the Lin family in it. So last night, I found a few friends to help me clear up the relationship and build a bridge. Who knew that the other party's background was so strong that they directly sent people to make trouble for me. I was drunk. How could I be their opponent? In the end, I met you. No matter what, I have to thank you for what happened last night. It's up to you whether you admit it or not. Qin Xing frowned slightly and said, Oh, so it seems that I have wronged you? I don't want to explain anything. It's up to you whether you believe it or not. But what I want to tell you is that I, Lin Zhe, am no longer the Lin Zhe in the past. I know how to go on my own path, Lin Zhe said confidently, as if he wanted to prove something to Qin Shing. Qin Shing said disapprovingly, "Don't talk nonsense to me. Just tell me with your actions." No matter what, Lin Zhe was Qin Shing's brother-in-law. Even if Lin Zhe had a good temper, he could not stand being scolded by his brother-in-law. Moreover, he had been proud and arrogant in the past. It was just that all his pride had been pressed to the ground by Qin Shing in the end. Lin Zhe did not say anything. It was useless to say anything. Now he just held his breath in. He had to prove himself, to prove that he was not a good-for-nothing. He had to make some achievements and make Qin Shing look at him in a different light at that time. Qin Shing thought for a while and finally asked, "Tell me, what's the background of the other party? According to what you said, those people are not easy to deal with. It is estimated that they will not let what happened last night go easily. Don't fall down at that time." Upon hearing Qin Shing's words, Lin Zhe was overjoyed. As long as Qin Shing was willing to show up, this matter might be easy to negotiate. After all, Qin Shing knew Wei Li and Dugu Qingning. At that time, if they said a few words, this matter might be settled. Lin Zhe said bluntly, "I just figured it out. Their backer is an old monk." Upon hearing this name, Qin Shing's expression changed slightly. He said, "An old monk." Chapter 706. As good as gold. Lin Zhe had mustered up all his courage to take the initiative to meet Qin Shing today. What had happened last night had made him lose face. First, he had been humiliated by Qin Shing, and then he had been reprimanded by Qin Shing. This had made Lin Zhe lose face. Especially when his friends had asked him who he was, Lin Zhe had said, "My brother-in-law," without any temper. From the looks of his friends, Lin Zhe could tell that they were laughing at him. Moreover, ever since Qin Shing had returned to Shanghai, Lin Zhe had almost ignored him. Even when Lin Zhe arrived in Shanghai and took the initiative to meet Qin Shing still refused to meet him. How could Lin Zhe not be resentful? Actually, he had changed a lot during this period of time, especially after his father and second uncle talked to him a few times, which made him completely determined. Whether it was his father or second uncle, they both made it very clear. Although 40% of the Lin family's assets had been given to Lin Su, and these assets were destined to belong to the Qin family in the future, this was also a chance for the Lin family to rebuild itself. As long as they followed in the footsteps of the Qin family, the Lin family's future would be far more abundant than this 40% of their asset. The only direct heir of the Lin family was Lin Zhe. If Lin Zhe did not work hard, the Lin family would lose this opportunity for nothing. Although the Lin family would not collapse, after all, with Lin Su supporting them, no one would really dare to do anything to the Lin family. But for a man like Lin Zhe, didn't he feel that living was too suffocating? After thinking about it for 2 months, Lin Zhe finally figured it out. As a result, he followed his second uncle to Shanghai and prepared to do something big. He also wanted to have a good talk with Qin Shing. He wanted to apologize for the mistakes he had made in the past and discuss what he wanted to do in the future. However, Qin Shing did not give him a chance. However, it had never occurred to him that he would meet Qin Shing outside the Queen's bar last night. Moreover, Qin Shing had seen the scene of him being humiliated, which made him feel very proud. Then, Qin Shing lectured him, which made him collapse mentally. Today, Lin Zhe came over to have a showdown with Qin Shing. He felt that no matter what he said, Qin Shing would not believe him. In that case, forget it. In the future, they would go their own ways and it would be best if they never contacted each other again. However, the courage that he had summoned up with great difficulty was crushed by Qin Shing so easily. In the end, he could only confess honestly and did not bother to explain anything. Qin Shing felt that Lin Zhe was a little different today. In the past, Lin Zhe did not have the courage to face him directly. Today, he actually dared to bargain with him. This made Qin Shing look at him in a different light. If Lin Zhe did not even have the courage to face him directly, how could Qin Shing think that he was worth putting in an important position? After that, when Lin Zhe finished explaining his purpose of coming to Hangzhou this time, Qin Shing felt that he had really wronged him. In addition, what Lin Zhe had said at the end made Qin Shing feel that Lin Zhe had indeed changed. However, Lin Zhe's trip to Hangzhou this time involved the old monk, so Qin Shing had to pay attention to it. If he really had a conflict with the old monk, Lin Zhe would definitely be no match for him. In that case, Qin Shing could only ask him to step in. However, Qin Shing did not want to fight with the old monk now. The old monk had refused the Yan family's invitation, which was to make space and opportunities for Qin Shing. This time, Qin Shing came to Hangzhou to deal with Third Master Wu first. After dealing with Third Master Wu, he would consider the old monk. Qin Shing was very clear about this. Therefore, Qin Shing frowned and said, "If the backer over there is really the old monk, I advise you to be careful in Hangzhou. I will talk to second uncle about this. Don't act rashly. The old monk is not easy to deal with." Originally, Lin Zhe wanted to say, "Why should I listen to you?" But in the end, he held back because he remembered what had happened in the past. It seemed that when Qin Shing was driven out of Hangzhou last time, the old monk was also involved. In that case, did Qin Shing's return to Hangzhou this time also have something to do with the old monk? That was why he said such a thing. Lin Zhe had no choice but to compromise. He could feel Qin Shing's seriousness. If he really messed up Qin Shing's plan, he was afraid that his brother-in-law would really take it out on him. "All right. You talk to second uncle first. I won't contact them for a few days. I'll wait until you make a decision." Qin Shing was very satisfied with Lin Zhe's attitude. He looked at Lin Zhe, nodded slightly, and said, "If you really want me to look up to you, show me your strength and do something. I will naturally see it. You don't have to say it out loud." Originally, Lin Zhe wanted to refute, but in the end, he held back. Since Qin Shing had nothing to talk with him, he directly asked Yang Dainyu to send the guest away. In the evening, in the old monk's villa, Chu Huanqi ran back in a hurry and asked the nanny who came down from upstairs, "Where is my grandfather?" The nanny replied with a smile, "Master is meeting a guest in the study." Then Chu Huanqi ran to the study on the second floor in a hurry. The door of the study was open, which meant that they did not talk about anything important. Chu Huanqi walked in directly and saw Yuan Ku sitting beside his grandfather. After a casual greeting, he said to his grandfather, "Grandpa, I have something to report to you." Judging from Chu Huanqi's expression, it should be something urgent. The old monk looked at Yuan Ku and signaled him to go back first. They would talk about the rest later. Yuan Ku stood up happily and nodded to the old monk. After that, he said something to Chu Huanqi and walked out of the study at a moderate pace. He was more familiar with this place than his own home. Yuan Ku and Chu Huanqi were quite close. They often hung out together. However, neither of them was a fool. Maybe they were just taking what they needed. Besides, the old monk knew better than anyone else what those people below him were planning. He had prepared a lot of backup plans for his grandson. After Chu Huanqi saw Yuan Ku off, he immediately closed the door of the study. The old monk frowned and asked, "What's the matter? Why are you so flustered?" Chu Huanqi did not keep him guessing. He said seriously, "Grandpa, Qin Shing went back to Hangzhou." Upon hearing this news, the old monk became serious in an instant. This was somewhat unexpected to him. What happened in Shanghai was enough to make Qin Shing badly battered. After all, Third Master Wu was in Shanghai now and the Yin family kept making trouble for Qin Shing. However, Qin Shing could still find time to rush back to Hangzhou. This was not easy at all. The old monk frowned and asked, "Is the news reliable?" Chu Huanqi took 2 steps forward and said seriously, "Absolutely reliable. If I was not sure whether the news was true or not, I would not dare to tell you. This is not a small matter. As Lin Zhe had told Qin Sheng today, the person who had a conflict with him last night was a playboy who was close to Chu Huanxi. The two families were relatives, but they did not have much contact in daily life. After the playboy had suffered losses last night, he immediately admitted defeat, because he had recognized Wei Li and Dugu Qingning. A wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. However, how could he swallow it so easily? After that, he contacted Chu Huanxi, hoping that Chu Huanxi could help him regain his face. Since Wei Li and Dugu Qingning were involved, Chu Huanxi would certainly not agree to help him casually. In particular, the playboy also said that at that time, Wei Li and Dugu Qingning had accompanied a distinguished young man, who seemed to know Lin Zhe. That was why he stood up for Lin Zhe. After hearing this, Chu Huanxi immediately thought of something. Lin Zhe was a descendant of the Lin family in Ningbo, and Lin Zhe's sister was Qin Sheng's girlfriend. In addition, since Wei Li and Dugu Qingning took it seriously, this young man's identity was not simple. Therefore, in conclusion, this young man was very likely to be Qin Sheng. Therefore, he immediately asked the playboy about the young man's appearance and so on. The result was similar to what he had guessed. It was almost Qin Sheng. However, Chu Huanxi was still somewhat worried. In the end, he went to the Queen's bar and found the surveillance video of the bar that night. In the end, he found Qin Sheng and confirmed his identity. The old monk murmured to himself. Qin Sheng suddenly appeared in Hangzhou. It's a bit strange. It's definitely not a good thing. Chu Huanxi was somewhat worried. Grandpa, what should we do? Didn't we plan to reconcile with him? Should we take the initiative to contact him? Otherwise, if he comes back to take revenge, we will have a deeper conflict at that time. The old monk thought for a while and said, I guess Qin Sheng must have come back to Hangzhou secretly this time. Otherwise, why didn't Third Master Wu make any response? Otherwise, he would have definitely responded. Therefore, we have to plan this matter in a low-key manner. We can't let more people know. Otherwise, it will not be good for Qin Sheng or for us if the information is leaked. Grandpa, don't worry. I didn't tell anyone. At present, only you and I know. Chu Huanxi said very firmly. Since his grandpa had said so, of course, he would not tell others. After all, many of the people below him could not be trusted. There were spies from various forces. The old monk stood up from the sofa and walked out slowly. He walked back and forth in the study with his head down. After a while, he continued to say, Find some absolutely reliable people to investigate who Qin Sheng is close to in Hangzhou and who he has met. Then tell me immediately, so that I can judge what he is going to do in Hangzhou. At the same time, don't be found out. Even if you find out, you can't tell us. Otherwise, there will be misunderstandings. And remember, never leak the information. If anyone leaks it out, he will bear the consequences. Since the old master had given such an order, if Chu Huanxi could not do it well, how could he take over such a large interest group in the future? Therefore, Chu Huanxi said firmly, Grandpa, don't worry. I will do it now. I will definitely not let you down. The old monk let out a long sigh and said, Go ahead. I hope Qin Sheng doesn't come back to Hangzhou for us this time. Otherwise, it will be a little troublesome. Chu Huanxi did not say anything. He nodded and left the Chu family's villa in a hurry. This time, he would listen to his grandpa's orders and would not act recklessly. Qin Sheng did not know that no matter how careful he was still found by others. Fortunately, it was found by the old monk. If Third Master Wu had found out, it would have been a little troublesome. However, Qin Sheng did not care about this now. What he needed to think about now was how to talk with Boss Hu tomorrow. Boss Hu would not agree easily like the Dugu family. Chapter 707. Betrayal again. Unknowingly, a storm was brewing. Qin Shing had already started to take action in Hangzhou. Chang Baji and Bao Fan did not stop in Shanghai. Late at night, by the seaside of Pudong, Shanghai, it was dark. Only the lighthouse in the distance and the sparks around could be seen. Obviously, this was an undeveloped place. For many seaside cities, the coastline was definitely the most prosperous and lively place. However, for Shanghai, the most prosperous place was always the two sides of the Huangpu River. There were more ports and docks on the coastline. Chang Baji and Bao Fan came here alone without bringing anyone with them. This was the other party's request. However, they had waited for half an hour, but the other party still did not show up. Chang Baji and Bao Fan frowned. Were they fooled or set up? Why do I feel something is wrong? Bao Fan was a little worried. They had shown enough sincerity, but if the other party set up a trap, they would walk right into the trap today. Even if Chang Baji was here, they might not be able to leave alive. At that time, they would really suffer a great loss. Chang Baji was very vigilant. He was always observing the surrounding environment. Once there was any movement, he would definitely run away with Bao Fan immediately. Let's wait and see. After all, this is the first time we've met. It's understandable that he doesn't trust us, just like we are also on guard against him. This is all human nature. As long as we reach an agreement today, it won't be so troublesome to meet him again in the future, Chang Baji said in a low voice. In fact, he was not very confident. After all, they were dealing with Third Master Wu's people. What they knew was what they had heard. As for what exactly was going on, no one knew. Maybe the other party had already told Third Master Wu. If they were killed and beat him at his own game, it would be the worst result. This meeting between the two parties had already indicated in advance that no one could bring any outsider with them. Once the information was leaked, they might even lose their lives, not to mention the overall situation. After hearing Chang Baji's words, Bao Fan was a little relieved. He asked with interest, "Do you think Wu Yongchuan will agree?" That was right. The person Chang Baji and Bao Fan were going to meet was Wu Yongchuan, the foster son of Third Master Wu, who was ranked first. This foster son, who used to be the most powerful under Third Master Wu's command, had become an abandoned chess piece. Even his last power had been taken away recently. Chang Baji had been studying Wu Yongchuan in the past few days, including what he had done in Hangzhou and what he had done in Shanghai over the years. Only in this way could he accurately predict Wu Yongchuan's future. Chang Baji had been studying Wu Yongchuan's behavior in Hangzhou and his behavior in Shanghai over the past few years. Chang Baji had been studying Wu Yongchuan in the past few days. Bao Fan sneered as he said, "Look at Wu Yongchuan. If he had been more ruthless in the past, Third Master Wu would not have been here today. I guess he would have been a big shot in the Yangtze River Delta. What a pity." Chang Baji said slowly, "Some people will betray for the second time if they can do it once. The ambition in their bones will definitely not be extinguished. The only thing is whether they have the strength or not. Third Master Wu has not trusted Wu Yongchuan for a long time. Therefore, no matter how hard Wu Yongchuan works, he will not be put in an important position. This can be seen from the fact that Third Master Wu took away his power this time." Chang Baji said slowly, "Let's not talk about this. Let's wait for a while. I hope Wu Yongchuan will not let us down. I also hope he still has the ambition." In the forest not far away, a middle-aged man was staring at Chang Baji and Bao Fan, who were by the sea. In fact, he had arrived long ago, but there was no road. After checking the surrounding environment several times, he finally walked here. After what had happened in the past, Wu Yongchuan didn't trust anyone anymore, especially when the other party was an unfamiliar power. If the other party wanted to harm him, he wouldn't even have a chance to resist. Who asked him to be a cripple now? What a joke. Back then, who was Wu Yongchuan? Everyone had to give him some face. But now, he was just a joke. More than half an hour had passed. After making sure that there were no accidents, Wu Yongchuan walked out slowly at this time and walked unhurriedly toward Chang Baji and Bao Fan, who were by the sea. Chang Baji and Bao Fan had already noticed him. After making sure that there was no one else, Bao Fan felt relieved and said, "He finally came." Chang Baji said thoughtfully, "Since he has already agreed, he will definitely come. However, whether he will nod and agree or not depends on our efforts." A few seconds later, the two parties met formally. This was not the first time for them to meet each other. They had met each other on different occasions before. For example, Wu Yongchuan and Chang Baji had met each other at Third Master Wu's birthday party. He and Bao Fan had met each other on other occasions in Shanghai. However, they did not have a deep understanding of each other. Wu Yongchuan said, "Now at this time, you asked me to meet you. You are really bold. Are you really not afraid that I will set up a Hongmen banquet?" Wu Yongchuan teased. No matter how Wu Yongchuan, who used to be arrogant, lay low, his momentum would not weaken, let alone his confidence to face anyone. Bao Fan replied with a smile, "This is also what we want to say. Compared with us, Boss Wu is bolder. If Third Master Wu knows about this, it seems that Boss Wu will be dead for sure." Wu Yongchuan said, He dead for sure? What is the difference between me and a dead person now? Even if he knows about this, so what? Isn't it just death?" He was full of resentment and dissatisfaction towards Third Master Wu. Bao Fan was overjoyed after hearing that. The deeper Wu Yongchuan's resentment was, the greater their chances would be. Consequently, Bao Fan took the opportunity to say, "It seems that Boss Wu has been in a bad mood recently. This is not the Boss Wu in the past. Does Boss Wu have any troubles? Why don't you tell us? Maybe we can help you solve your problems." Wu Yongchuan raised his head and stared at Bao Fan for a while. Then he smiled with a disdainful look and said, "I say, do you want to do this?" Bao Fan frowned and said, "Boss Wu, what do you mean? You are Qin Shing's men, while I am foster father's man. My foster father and Qin Shing are like fire and water now. We know better than anyone else what it means to meet each other. It can't be a chat, right? Why don't we be straightforward? Don't waste each other's time in the middle of the night. Just tell us your purpose. If we agree, we will continue to talk. If not, we will pretend that we have never met each other." Wu Yongchuan's words were quite domineering. No wonder he dared to challenge Third Master Wu's position in the past. It was not without reason. Chang Baji and Bao Fan did not expect that Wu Yongchuan would take the initiative to start a topic. This was interesting, which meant that Wu Yongchuan should have his own ideas. Taking a step back, the fact that Wu Yongchuan had agreed to meet them had explained a lot. Now, all they needed to do was to tell each other their needs and interests, and then talk slowly. In the end, as long as they were satisfied with each other, that would be enough. At this time, Chang Baji opened his mouth and said, "Since Boss Wu is so straightforward, we won't waste any time. Let's talk directly. Tell me, what do you want from me?" Wu Yongchuan stared at Chang Baji and said. He knew Chang Baji, who was the #1 master on Qin Shing's side. On their side, only Mr. Chu could be a match for Chang Baji. Chang Baji said straightforwardly, "Boss Wu, we are very clear about your current situation. Third Master Wu has completely given up on you. Not only did he not put you in an important position, but he also took away your last power. Obviously, Boss Wu has become a sacrificial pawn. Are you really willing to be a sacrificial pawn?" Wu Yongchuan was not surprised at all. Since these people could meet him, it meant that they had already investigated his situation. He sneered and said, "It seems that you are very clear about my situation. Since you know that I am a sacrificial pawn, what's the point of meeting me? What can a sacrificial pawn do for you? As for whether I am willing or not, it is not up to me to decide. If I have this ability, of course I am not willing." Wu Yongchuan said straightforwardly. Chang Baji could tell that Wu Yongchuan was certainly not willing to be a sacrificial pawn. However, he did not have this ability. In this case, it was easy to deal with him. Chang Baji threw out the bait and said, "We also think that it is a waste for a person like Boss Wu to be a sacrificial pawn. Since Boss Wu is also unwilling to be a sacrificial pawn, we can help Boss Wu." Wu Yongchuan laughed and said, "What? Do you want me to follow you? Or do you want me to betray my foster father again?" Bao Fan did not say anything and let Chang Baji talk. He just observed Wu Yongchuan's expression and demeanor, so that he could judge what Wu Yongchuan was thinking, which words were sincere and which were just perfunctory. "Boss Wu, as you said, we don't need to hide. Our purpose is very simple. Third Master Wu is our enemy. Naturally, we want to bring him down. Although Boss Wu is Third Master Wu's adopted son, he has already been abandoned by Third Master Wu. Is Boss Wu willing to become useless from now on? Only by toppling Third Master Wu can Boss Wu have a chance to make a comeback." Chang Baji's words were even more straightforward. Wu Yongchuan was not shocked at all. He replied, "Then it seems that you want me to betray my adoptive father. Ha 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 ha, tsk, tsk, tsk. Don't you know that I have already betrayed him once? Back then, my adoptive father did not kill me, but it does not mean that he will not kill me this time. How did Boss Wu know that it would fail? As long as Boss Wu agrees, we will do our best to cooperate with Boss Wu. Besides, we have a lot of backup plans, which Boss Wu can't even imagine." Chang Baji didn't give Wu Yongchuan a chance to breathe. Wu Yongchuan began to calculate in his heart. He took the initiative to ask, "You want me to betray my adoptive father one more time? If I fail, I might even lose my life, but you guys will still be fine. So what I need to know is, what will I get in return?" Chang Baji did not promise Wu Yongchuan too much. Otherwise, Wu Yongchuan would be too greedy, like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. At that time, we will fully support Boss Wu to take over the position of Third Master Wu. That will depend on Boss Wu's ability. After all, there will be other people sharing the cake. Chang Baji did not promise too much. Otherwise, Wu Yongchuan would be too greedy. This sentence was too vague. Wu Yongchuan did not dare to agree easily. He had to figure out how many benefits he would get. However, this was not what he cared about most at that moment. Instead, he asked very seriously, "Then what do I need to do?" "Help us kill Third Master Wu," Chang Baji said firmly. Hearing this, Wu Yongchuan was stunned subconsciously. He thought that he was just asked to betray his adoptive father. It did not occur to him that such an important task would be given to him. Therefore, Wu Yongchuan felt that he had to think about it carefully. He had to sort out his logic again. Otherwise, if this step was wrong, he would really die. Chapter 708. Just ask. When Chang Baji and Bao Fan contacted him, Wu Yongchuan already knew what they wanted to do. Both sides were already enemies who could not tolerate each other. His foster father had joined hands with the Yen family and others to kill Qin Shing. Qin Shing would definitely not give up without a fight. Hence, the reason why they contacted him was to ask him to help them deal with his foster father. To be frank, they wanted him to betray his foster father. Wu Yongchuan did not want to come at first, but he thought it did not matter later. Anyway, he had nothing to do. He just wanted to see what they wanted to do. Maybe his foster father would put him in an important position again after he told him about it. This could be regarded as a show of loyalty. Or, he wanted to see what they could offer him. If it was tempting enough to change his current position, he could betray his foster father again. Anyway, he was full of resentment toward his foster father now. He was forced to do this by his foster father, so he could not be blamed. However, he did not expect that these people would ask him to kill his foster father directly. This was King big time. Not to mention whether he could kill his foster father or not, there were many masters around his foster father. Mr. Chu and Yang Deng alone were not easy for him to deal with. Secondly, he betrayed his foster father in the past, and his foster father spared his life later. Now he betrayed his foster father again, which was already intolerable. If he killed his foster father again, he was afraid that it would cause public anger. Finally, the relationship between his family and his foster father was exposed. At that time, his reputation would be completely ruined. Therefore, Wu Yongchuan instantly became nervous and began to weigh the pros and cons. He could not just agree to it casually. It's impossible for me to kill my foster father. It's more difficult than going to heaven. Wu Yongchuan began to ask his doubts one by one, so that he could make the best choice. Chang Baji sneered and said, "Of course, you are not a match for Third Master Wu at all. Don't forget what I said. I just want you to help. Leave the rest to us. Anyway, you don't need to do anything. Don't worry about it." "What should I do? Tell me clearly." "If you don't, how can I help you?" Wu Yongchuan asked. He did not intend to be perfunctorily answered. Bao Fan said impatiently, "At most, I just need you to lure Third Master Wu out of Shanghai. As for the details, we will discuss it later. There is no specific plan now." Wu Yongchuan's brows furrowed tightly. He had to put this matter aside for now and continue asking questions. He said in a low voice, "All right, even if I only have to lure him out, if Godfather dies, I definitely won't be able to escape responsibility. The entire circle will gang up on me. What should I do?" This time, it was Chang Baji who explained, "Don't worry. We will definitely get you out of this and let you have nothing to do with the whole thing. On the contrary, at that time, you can say in a dignified manner that you want to settle accounts with us and take revenge. In this way, you can conveniently take over the forces in Shanghai." Baji said, "Don't worry. We will definitely get you out. You will have to find a way to get back with us." At that time, everyone would be anxious. They would first think of ways to snatch the benefits that they could. That was the most important thing. That was the human heart. In addition, we have external allies. As for who they are, you don't have to worry about them. As long as Third Master Wu dies, they will take action immediately. There are internal and external troubles. Those foster sons will be too busy to take care of you. What you need to do is to get your own benefit." Wu Yongchuan's words completely dispelled all the doubts in his mind. He did not expect that Qin Sheng had made such a thorough plan and was just waiting for him to join the game. Wu Yongchuan asked tentatively, "Who are your allies?" Chang Baji shook his head and chuckled. "You don't have to do that. When you are really on the same side as us, we will let you know. But now it is impossible." Wu Yongchuan suddenly asked, "Aren't you afraid that I will promise you perfunctorily that I will tell my adoptive father all your plans after I go back? By then, my adoptive father will be prepared and your plan will be in vain." Chang Baji sneered. "I believe you won't do that. Because you are not that kind of person. Third Master Wu will not let you work so hard. Even if he believes you, what can he give you? As for what we can give you, I think you will think it over. At the very least, as long as you tell others, we will let you pay the price. We can't kill Third Master Wu now, but it doesn't mean we can't do anything to you." Chang Baji's words were reasonable. If Wu Yongchuan really dared to do that, he should think it over. Moreover, he believed that Wu Yongchuan was not so stupid. "This is not easy. I have to think it over." After Wu Yongchuan heard it, he was not surprised by these threats. Besides, he really did not need to do that. Even if he did not leak the information, he could not wait for Third Master Wu to die. In this way, he could gain benefits. At this time, Bao Fan said, "Okay, we will give you time to think it over. But only 2 days. You must give us an answer within 2 days. Time waits for no man." Only 2 days. Wu Yongchuan did not expect that they would be so anxious. It seemed that they had prepared for a long time and were just waiting for him to agree. Wu Yongchuan thought for a while and said, "Okay, 2 days it is. Wait for my news." Bao Fan took the initiative to reach out his hand and said, "I hope Boss Wu will not let us down. I also hope Boss Wu can rise again." Wu Yongchuan shook hands with Bao Fan and Chang Baji. Suddenly, he thought of another key question and asked, "Why not Qin Xing? Can I trust your words?" Chang Baji found it funny and said, "Young master still has something important to do. We can represent him. Of course, if you agree, you will naturally meet young master." Wu Yongchuan did not think much. After saying goodbye to the two, he turned around and left the seaside. After Wu Yongchuan left, Chang Baji and Bao Fan did not leave in a hurry. Today they had said too much. Although they were full of sincerity, if Wu Yongchuan really reported it to Third Master Wu, all their previous preparations would be in vain. "Lao Chang, are you sure that he will not tell Third Master Wu?" Bao Fan still did not quite trust Wu Yongchuan. After all, this guy had betrayed Third Master Wu before. Chang Baji said thoughtfully, "I am not sure. But he is a smart man. He can figure out what to do to maximize his benefits. This kind of person is ambitious. It is just that he has been suppressed by Third Master Wu. Maybe Third Master Wu also knows this. That is why he has treated him like this for so many years." Based on his own judgment, Bao Fan echoed, "That's true." Chang Baji thought for a while and said immediately, "If we are still worried, we can send someone to keep an eye on Wu Yongchuan. As long as he goes to meet Third Master Wu these 2 days, we will have to make other plans. If not, it means that the probability of him choosing us is very high." Bao Fan said quietly, "This is also a good idea. I will arrange it immediately." After that, they immediately returned to the downtown area. After all, they were very careful now. No matter who it was, there was a possibility that something might happen. Now, Bao Fan not only had to work for Qin Xing, but also had to report all the news in Shanghai to Qin Chanan. Consequently, Qin Chanan knew all these things that had happened in Shanghai, and he also acquiesced. In the early morning, beside the West Lake in Hangzhou, Qin Xing met an old friend here. He arranged to meet Boss Hu at noon. It was still at Boss Hu's security base. This was arranged by Boss Hu. Perhaps it was because it was safer there, so Qin Xing did not think too much about it. In the early morning, there were not many people beside the lake. Qin Xing and that old friend walked forward at a moderate pace. Yang Dainyu and Brother Wu followed them from a distance. At the same time, they were alert to the surrounding environment. That old friend asked casually, "When did you come back?" Qin Xing replied in a low voice, "I just came back the day before yesterday. I immediately came to report to Brother Fong. I wonder if I can have lunch with you at noon?" In Hangzhou, it seemed that Xue Qingyan's childhood friend, Fong Jianpain, who was called Brother Fong by Qin Xing, seemed to be the only one. This playboy, who had been promoted recently, had already known the relevant news about Qin Xing from Xue Qingyan. Of course, Xue Qingyan did not say it too straightforwardly. However, he had already known what he should know. Fong Jianpain said with a smile, "Not to mention that we know each other. Even if we don't know each other, based on your relationship with Qingyan, how can I not treat you to a meal?" Fong Jianpain said with a smile. Nowadays, he could not deal with Qin Xing casually. Qin Xing was already the eldest young master of the Qin family. Fong Jianpain did not care about the trivial matters of the Qin family for now. However, his youngest uncle was a real popular person in his career. Back in Zhujiang, he was a powerful figure. Qin Xing laughed out loud and said, "I was just joking. I heard from Qingyan that you have been in Shanghai all this time. Why did you suddenly come to Hangzhou?" Fong Jianpain asked casually, but he had some idea in his heart. Qin Xing said very casually, "How can you not know why I came back to Hangzhou, Brother Fong?" Qin Sheng's straightforwardness surprised Fang Jianping a little bit. He did not expect that Qin Sheng did not even say any polite words and said his purpose very straightforwardly. Fang Jianping was stunned for a few seconds and then said, "Revenge? It's not really revenge. It's just that others want to make trouble for me. I have to fight back. Otherwise, it will be too embarrassing," Qin Sheng said with a smile with hidden daggers. Fang Jianping laughed out loud and said, "In the past, I could understand when others made trouble for you. Now, who dares to make trouble for you? Do they want to die? Those who dare to make trouble for me naturally know my trump card. Moreover, our Qin family is in a precarious situation now. There are many people who hit us when we are down. I have no choice." Qin Sheng sighed with a long beard. Since Qin Sheng was so frank, Fang Jianping also asked directly, "Tell me, what do you need help with? I will definitely not refuse if it's within my ability." Fang Jianping's words made Qin Sheng feel that after the change of status, there would be a different effect. If it was in the past, Fang Jianping would not say such words. Qin Sheng said in a low voice, "Actually, it's nothing. If I really have trouble, I hope Brother Fang can help me with a few words. I can't directly find my uncle for such a small matter." Qin Sheng directly used his backer. Fang Jianping did not want to guess more meaning in Qin Sheng's words, but he had to help, because there would be returns after all. So Fang Jianping said lightly, "If you really have trouble, just tell me and I will try my best." Qin Sheng really did not expect that today's meeting with Fang Jianping would be so smooth. When he was in Hangzhou, he thought that Fang Jianping was a very principled person, so he thought that today would be a little difficult, but he really did not expect that. Qin Sheng shouted with satisfaction, "Thank you, Brother Fang." Chapter 709. To be honest, Qin Sheng was a bit like a fox borrowing the tiger's power. Of course, he would not go to his uncle. Even if he did, his uncle might not be willing to help him in this matter. Fang Jianping would not think about this. He had his own considerations. If it was in the past, he would never say this to Qin Sheng, because Qin Sheng was not qualified to be on the same level as him. Even if he was familiar with Xue Qinyan, so what? After all, they were not friends on the same path. But now it was different. Qin Sheng had powerful resources behind him. Fang Jianping was ambitious, but sometimes even if he was strong enough, if he did not have enough connections and resources, he might not be able to get promoted. Qin Sheng's connections might not be useful at the moment. After all, his family's resources in the political and legal circles of the province were already strong enough. But in the future, when he moved up, especially at the critical juncture, Qin Sheng's connections might be useful. Under the premise that he was capable enough, he would need such a key sentence at that time. Therefore, today, Fang Jianping did not refuse Qin Sheng, but promised to help him. Of course, it must be within a reasonable range. If it was beyond his ability, he naturally did not want to get involved. In any case, this was a voluntary deal. Fang Jianping might not really treat Qin Sheng as a friend before, but from today on, they were really friends. After talking about these things, Fang Jianping drove away from the West Lake scenic area. Originally, he wanted to treat Qin Sheng to lunch, but something came up, so he had to leave early. He would make up for this meal later. Qin Sheng took Yang Daniu and Brother Wu to the nearest Ziwiguan and had some lunch. After lunch, he called Xue Qinyan and told her about the meeting with Fang Jianping today. He also said that he was surprised by Fang Jianping's attitude today. Qin Sheng did not understand Fang Jianping, but Xue Qinyan knew Fang Jianping better than anyone. She was not surprised by Fang Jianping's attitude at all. She smiled and said, "This is Fang Jianping's character. He is capable and ambitious, and he knows how to deal with people. He can get to where he is today not only because of his family, but more because of his personal ability. No matter where he works, His leaders and colleagues have a high evaluation of him. He is not too outstanding. On the contrary, he is low-key and pragmatic. He can do everything to the extreme. Qin Shing nodded silently and said, "Smart, very smart. But sometimes it's not good to be too smart. Sister, do you think Fang Jianping is worthy of being friends with? Don't put a question mark on him just because of what happened today. On the contrary, people like Fang Jianping are very worthy of deep friendship. Since he already knows your identity, he is very clear about how to deal with you. He also knows how to make steady progress. He will not ask you to return the favor just because he helped you today. He knows when to use this favor, so you can rest assured," Xue Qinyan analyzed sharply. After Qin Shing heard this, he pondered for a while and then said, "Since you said so, I won't think too much about it. Let's see how much he can help me this time. Is he really going to help me or is he just saying it?" However, Qin Shing, Fang Jianping's bottom line and principles are very strong. If things are too difficult, you'd better ask me first if it's suitable or not, and then ask him for help. Qin Shing was not sure about these now. But Xue Qinyan had known Fang Jianping for so many years and knew him better. So Qin Shing nodded and said, "Okay, I got it." After talking about these business, Xue Qinyan suddenly asked like a little girl, "How long will you stay in Hangzhou?" Qin Shing did not think too much about it. He thought that Xue Qinyan was just asking. In fact, Xue Qinyan wanted to say that she missed him and wanted to see him. But she definitely could not say such words, so she had to change the way. "It should be a few more days," Qin Shing said casually. The Dugu family had been settled. Next, it was up to Boss Hu. Xue Qinyan, who was sitting in the office, casually supported her chin with her arm. She pouted and said, "Okay, then be careful in Hangzhou. Call me if anything happens." Qin Shing found it funny and said, "Sister, I got it. I'm not a 3-year-old kid anymore." Xue Qinyan covered her mouth and smiled. Sometimes this man was like a big boy who could not grow up. Sometimes he was as mature as an old man in his 40s or 50s. But no matter what he looked like, he could not stop her from liking him. She did not know when he had stolen her calm heart. After hanging up the phone, Xue Qinyan was a little worried. She was thinking about what reason she could use to refuse the dinner at night. It could not be said to be a dinner party. There was a rich bachelor from Beijing, who was also from a big family. Now his business was even more prosperous, so the big boss deliberately joined in the brothers' party, wanting her to get to know him. But Xue Qinyan already had someone she liked, so naturally she was very disgusted. What a headache in Hangzhou. After lunch, Qin Shing went to Boss Hu's training base. Boss Hu asked him to meet there. Qin Shing was more or less reluctant because he was afraid that the news would be leaked. But Boss Hu said it was okay. Qin Shing could only let him go. After all, he was asking for help. Qin Shing was familiar with Boss Hu's training base. When he had been in Hangzhou, he had been there with Lao Chong. At that time, Lao Chong had fought with Boss Hu's subordinate. Of course, Lao Chong won. After that, Lao Chong often went to Boss Hu's training base to train those bodyguards. Therefore, compared with Qin Shing, Lao Chong was more familiar with Boss Hu. The two of them could be considered friends. Boss Hu's training base could be said to be the largest training base for bodyguards in Zhejiang. Boss Hu's business in this area had already spread across the 3 provinces of Jiangsu, Zhejiang and Shanghai. It could be seen how powerful Boss Hu was. After the 2 cars arrived at the gate of the training base, they went in smoothly after reporting their identities. In the end, they parked in a training hall according to the directions. Before they walked in, they had already heard talking and laughing inside. Among them, Wei Li's voice was the most obvious. It seemed that Wei Li had arrived earlier than Qin Shing. The Wei family had a good relationship with Boss Hu. Wei Li even called Boss Hu uncle. Even the 2 domineering bodyguards beside Wei Li's father had been selected by Boss Hu. Not to mention that boss who was in charge of all the shopping malls under the Wei family in Jiangsu, Zhejiang and Shanghai. Consequently, the two families had a close relationship. After Qin Sheng had mentioned boss Hu, Wei Li had directly said that the two families had a good relationship. He could take the initiative to go to boss Hu. If necessary, he could also ask his father to act as a go-between. However, Qin Sheng still had to deal with boss Hu personally. At the beginning, Qin Sheng was not clear about Wei Li's capability. However, after he got to know more about Wei Li, he felt that Wei Li was not simple at all. It could be said that Wei Li was a powerful ally. At least in the game of chess in Hangzhou, Wei Li could be said to be the most important chess piece. Oh, I haven't had a good chat with your father for a long time. Your father is getting farther and farther away. We can only look up to him. There were only a few people in the training hall. Apart from Wei Li and boss Hu, there were only 3 top warriors under boss Hu's command. Wei Li had gotten used to this kind of teasing a long time ago. He smiled and said, "Uncle Hu, you are too modest. Everyone in Zhejiang knows Uncle Hu's capability. It is just that Uncle Hu is too low-key." Boss Hu chuckled and said, "My way is different. What can I do if I don't keep a low profile? In the future, I still have to hold on to your father's thigh. I will ask your father to have a good chat someday. I happen to need his help with something." He appreciated Wei Li very much. Like father, like son. Wei Li took the opportunity and said, "Recently, he has been discussing something in Hong Kong. When he comes back, I will tell him. At that time, I will drink with you." Boss Hu was very clear about his current status. Although their relationship was not bad, it was not the same as before. He still had to maintain the relationship with the Wei family. After all, many of his businesses depended on the Wei family. Boss Hu laughed out loud and said, "I know that you are a good drinker. Don't run away from me at that time." Wei Li said casually, "Uncle Hu, I am not that bad when I drink, am I?" Boss Hu did not say anything more, because at this time, Qin Sheng had already walked into the training hall with his people. Boss Hu looked in Qin Sheng's direction and said gently, "Today's main character is here." Wei Li also stopped being casual just now. Wei Li had already talked with Boss Hu about those things about Qin Sheng. He thought that Boss Hu should have a clear idea. However, Wei Li was not sure about the final result. It was not that Boss Hu had to cooperate with Qin Sheng because of his powerful background. Maybe Boss Hu was not willing to get involved in the muddy water. Who knew what unknown risks there would be? At the worst, they could go their own ways and not contact each other. Would Qin Sheng hate Boss Hu because of this? After Qin Sheng approached, Boss Hu took the initiative to greet him. "Qin Sheng, why didn't I see Lao Chang today? We haven't seen each other for more than half a year. I still want to talk to Lao Chang." Boss Hu behaved very naturally. It seemed that they had not seen each other for more than half a year. Just now, Qin Sheng was still thinking about how Boss Hu would greet him. It did not occur to him that he would start with Lao Chang. This was not surprising. After all, Lao Chang had more contact with Boss Hu. After Qin Sheng walked up to Boss Hu, he took the initiative to stretch out his hand and said, "Long time no see, Brother Hu. Lao Chang is still so energetic. Lao Chang has other things to deal with in Shanghai. After finishing them, I will come to Hangzhou to visit you, Brother Hu." Wei Li said jokingly, "Lao Qin, you are wrong. I call you Uncle Hu. You call me Brother Hu. Aren't you taking advantage of me?" Qin Sheng smiled and joked in a hurry. "Ha ha ha, it's different." They shook hands. This time, the handshake was different from before. In the past, Qin Sheng's posture in front of Boss Hu was very low and respectful. This time, Boss Hu put Qin Sheng on the same level as him, just like how Fang Jianping treated Qin Sheng. They were equals and respected each other very much. As a result, Qin Sheng's biggest feeling during this period was that this society was so realistic. One's status determined everything. Boss Hu sighed with emotion as he said, "Alas, it's a bit of a pity. Some of my subordinates are somewhat unconvinced and want to challenge Lao Chang. I can only look for opportunities next time." Boss Hu was quite obsessed with all kinds of martial arts. This was also the reason why he had set the training hall as the meeting place this time. Qin Shing remembered that when he had come to the training base for the first time, those people had been unconvinced by Lao Chang and had asked Lao Chang to teach them a lesson. It did not occur to him that after more than half a year, they would be unconvinced again. Qin Shing said playfully, "Brother Hu, do you want to fight them again?" Chapter 710. It was still the same. Both Qin Sheng and Wei Li knew that Boss Hu had been a soldier for 10 years. He had left the army after he made a mistake. Besides, his family urged him to go home and inherit the family business. However, as a veteran Boss Hu had a deep affection for the army. The whole training base had recruited many retired veterans, many of whom had been the king of soldiers. From this point, it could be seen that Boss Hu had a good relationship with the army. Otherwise, he would not have been able to take over such resources so easily. It should be known that these king of soldiers were really eager to be recruited. Because of this, when Wei Li chatted with Boss Hu, he intentionally revealed another layer of Qin Shing's background, which was that Qin Shing's uncle was also a soldier. Wei Li did not tell Boss Hu about his specific identity on purpose. He only said that Qin Shing's uncle was already a 3-star military officer, and he was also on active duty. Wei Li could clearly feel that Boss Hu was a little shocked after hearing this news. It might be because of his complicated relationship with the army, or he did not expect that Qin Shing had such a powerful background. Maybe it was because of this that Boss Hu chose to meet Qin Shing. Otherwise, Boss Hu would not be interested in Wei Li's words, including how many benefits he could get from it. At this moment, Qin Shing knew that Boss Hu was a soldier, so he attached great importance to fighting skills. He remembered that Boss Hu would hold an underground kung fu competition every year, with a generous prize, which attracted numerous tycoons from Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai to participate in. Last year, when he had been in Hangzhou, he had asked Gu Xiaobo and Gu Qingyang to participate in it. After Qin Shing said this, Boss Hu said with a smile, "You know I like to fight. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done so much work. This year, I found 2 guys who are good at fighting, and even Shen Kongwu is no match for them." They all heard from Shen Kongwu and others that Lao Chang is awesome, so they want to challenge him. Unexpectedly, Lao Chang is not here today. I'm afraid that they will be disappointed. Qin Shing glanced at the 3 men standing not far behind Boss Hu. Apart from Shen Kongwu, whom he had seen and known before, the other 2 were strangers to him. Judging from their appearances, they seemed to be tough guys. No wonder they wanted to challenge Lao Chang. He guessed that the 2 of them were retired from the army, so their skills must be very good. They were the cream of the crop. When they were in the army, they had never been convinced by anyone, so they were used to being arrogant. Qin Shing thought for a while and said, "Brother Hu, if you really want to fight again, it's not impossible. I'm just afraid that these 2 new masters are not good enough. If they can't defeat them, they will have a mental breakdown. It's none of my business." "Oh, do you mean that one of the 2 masters you brought today is better than Lao Chang? Lao Chang? Or do you want to fight by yourself?" Boss Hu stared at Yang Dainyu and Brother Wu, who were behind Qin Shing, and said thoughtfully, "I know that you have pretty good martial arts skills." Qin Shing said happily, "I don't like fighting and killing. In the past, I just wanted to survive. Most of the time, I had no choice. Who would be willing to do that?" "Uncle Wei, who is Wei, who Wei, I who? I who? I Xing, I who, Xing, I who, I who? I said. "Li, I Boss Hu, who? I who," Boss Hu said with a smile, "he is awesome. But he doesn't show it. Qin Shing smiled bitterly and said, I used to practice with my grandfather's friend, but it's not elegant. Compared with these king of soldiers, I'm much weaker. Wei Li sighed and said, I admire you. Comparisons are odious. No wonder you have such a good figure. However, it was obvious that Wei Li was flattering Qin Shing. As long as Boss Who was in the training base, he would almost always wear camouflage clothes. He continued to look at the two men behind Qin Shing and asked, Qin Shing, tell me, which one of them is good at fighting? Don't be an embroidered pillow who can't withstand a single blow. Otherwise, it will be a joke. Qin Shing said disapprovingly, Why? Who are you going to send? If it's Shin Kongwu, I don't need to persuade him. It's not that I look down on Shin Kongwu, but he is indeed not a match for him. If these two can't even be compared with Shin Kongwu, then you can send him. I have no problem with that. Qin Shing's words were unscrupulous, full of conceit and provocation. Not only Shin Kongwu, who was proud and arrogant, couldn't stand it anymore, but the other two men also couldn't stand it. Shin Kongwu stood out first and said, Boss Who, let me do it. I want to see which one of them is so powerful. If Chang Baji were here, Shin Kongwu wouldn't dare to show off. At most, he would fight with Chang Baji to see if his strength was tight during this period. At the same time, he could ask Chang Baji to give him some advice. However, Chang Baji was not here now. Shin Kongwu definitely wouldn't accept Qin Shing's words. The other two men also stood out one after another and said firmly, Boss Who, let me do it. If I lose, I'm willing to be punished. Boss Who squinted his eyes and sized up the two men behind Qin Shing again. Could it be that I have misjudged them? They don't have the demeanor of an otherworldly master like Chang Baji. They look like ordinary small potatoes. However, since Qin Shing had said so, Boss Who certainly didn't believe that Qin Shing was teasing him. He smiled and said, Tut tut, among the two men you brought here today, there is someone more powerful than Chang Baji? Qin Shing chuckled and said, I don't think so. But I think he should be able to deal with Brother Hu. After all, Lao Chang also said that he would definitely have a high achievement in the future. He might even be more powerful than Lao Chang. After hearing Qin Shing's words, Boss Who finally became interested. He turned around and shouted directly, Zhao Ligong, come out. You will do it today. Don't let our distinguished guests down. After hearing Qin Shing's words, the man called Zhao Ligong stood out without hesitation. He looked very excited and eager to have a try. He couldn't wait to do it now. Since Qin Shing had said so, Boss Who didn't try to be mysterious. This man called Zhao Ligong had just retired from the Northern Theater of Operations. He was more powerful than Shin Kongwu and the man who had retired from the Eastern Theater of Operations. Consequently, Boss Who directly let him do it. It was not until then that Qin Shing revealed his true identity. He turned around slowly, looked at Yang Dainyu, and said, Dainyu, is it okay? Hearing this name, the others almost burst out laughing. This name was too casual, which didn't fit the demeanor of a master at all. Moreover, this man didn't have the temperament of a master at all. There were so many of them on the street. Yang Dainyu still smiled brightly and said, No problem, no problem. It's just a fight. I have never been afraid of it for so many years. At worst, I will be defeated. In that case, I can only admit that I am not as good as you. I believe in you. Just try your best. Qin Shing didn't put pressure on Yang Dainyu. After all, Yang Dainyu was not his subordinate, but his friend. Yang Dainyu looked at the man called Zhao Ligong provocatively. After that, he walked slowly to the open space beside him, looking a little sloppy. Zhao Ligong followed him closely and kept a distance from the others. After all, fists and kicks had no eyes. No one knew what would happen later. Wei Li was very excited. He hadn't seen such a hot-blooded and exciting scene for a long time. Those small conflicts in daily life were really like children's play. As for those in movies, it was even more difficult to come across. However, it was not that he didn't know the world. He had also seen those masters fighting. It was just that ordinary people couldn't see it. Unknowingly, the protagonists had changed to Yang Dainyu and Zhao Ligong. Everyone was staring at them. They wanted to see who was more powerful. Judging from the momentum, Zhao Ligong was obviously more domineering. His whole body was full of fighting intent. As for Yang Dainyu, he was still so sloppy. It seemed that he didn't take this matter seriously at all. Everyone estimated that Yang Dainyu would definitely lose. They didn't believe that Yang Dainyu had the strength of Chang Baji. Such a master was rare. Only Qin Xing knew that Yang Dainyu's strength was not simple. He had seen Yang Dainyu fight. Even Chang Baji had to treat him seriously. How could he be ordinary? However, Qin Xing was still not clear about Zhao Ligong's strength. So he was a little uncertain. Yang Dainyu looked at Zhao Ligong, who was 3 meters away from him. After looking at him for a while, he smiled and said, "My name is Yang Dainyu. I was born in Tianmu Mountain behind here. Brother, you should be gentle later. Let's not go too far." Zhao Ligong couldn't stand this kind of mischievous people the most. He sneered and said, "You'd better show your real strength. If I really hurt you, it's my fault." After that, Zhao Ligong said very seriously, "Zhao Ligong, retired from the Special Forces in the Northern Theater of Operations. Please enlighten me." Yang Dainyu was a little troubled. This kind of soldier was the most difficult to deal with. It was not that he was afraid or worried that his skills were not as good as others. It was just that every time these people fought, it was like they were risking their lives. It was very difficult to deal with them. They had to win or lose. Otherwise, they would not give up. He had encountered this kind of situation many times before. Okay. You are so long-winded. Make your move," Yang Dainyu said impatiently. Then he stood there and waited for Zhao Ligong to rush over. Anyway, he would not take the initiative to attack. Zhao Ligong was also waiting for Yang Dainyu to make the first move. However, after waiting for a few seconds, it seemed that Yang Dainyu did not want to make a move at all. He looked like he would make the first move if Zhao Ligong wanted to fight. Therefore, Zhao Ligong could not stand it anymore. He used his eyes to mock Yang Dainyu for being a coward. Now he just wanted to teach Yang Dainyu a lesson. So he gathered his strength and rushed over directly. They could not just waste time like this. The moment Zhao Ligong rushed over, Yang Dainyu finally put away his mischievous smile and stared at Zhao Ligong with a serious face. In an instant, it was as if he had become a different person. Everyone could feel it. Never underestimate any enemy. No matter how strong the opponent was, he had to go all out at any time. This was the principle that his master taught him. All these years, Yang Dainyu had been practicing this principle and had never made a mistake. Therefore, he was lucky enough to come back to this day. At this moment, he was still doing the same. A big battle had begun quietly. However, in another place in Hangzhou, a plan had just been finalized. It seemed to be a little risky. However, this kind of meeting seemed to be more interesting. First, set a small goal. For example, remember in 1 second, Booksellers Mobile. Chapter 711. Acting, the last chapter of 2018. The year has passed just like that. I didn't have a good year. I really let myself down this year. No matter what I did this year, I was muddle-headed. My mentality has never been as impetuous and terrible as this year. I hope that 2019 will not disappoint me. I can finish this book as soon as possible and write a book that I want to write. I can write all the experiences of these years. No matter how many things there were, he had to deal with them one by one. Moreover, things had not happened yet. Qin Xing could not predict the future. What he was concerned about now was this battle. If Yang Dainyu won today, he would have more chances to cooperate with Boss Hu. Yang Daniu seemed to have changed into another person suddenly. He leaned his body forward in a weird posture. Even Boss Hu was experienced and knowledgeable, had never seen it before, let alone the others. They just stared at the two masters and wanted to see what kind of sparks would happen. Yang Daniu's master was from the old ancestor of Zhongnan Mountains. His sect was based on ancient martial arts, which combined many kinds of martial arts. It was based on the 8 diagrams and the 8 extremes, which emphasized on big movements. Moreover, one's body foundation must be good, so that he could control more movements and would not be caught in a decision at any time. On Zhao Ligong's side, he had also learned some fist and leg techniques, but most of them were from actual combat. His moves were relatively simple, direct, and ferocious, without any fancy move. He aimed to hit the target with one strike and not give the opponent a chance to fight back. Therefore, Zhao Ligong's opponent was Yang Daniu, which was very interesting. Zhao Ligong dashed over at an extremely fast speed with an imposing manner. It seemed that he intended to defeat Yang Daniu at the beginning of the battle. Both Qin Sheng and Brother Wu were worried for Yang Daniu. If Yang Daniu lost in the first round, it would be a bit shameful. Yang Daniu waited with that weird posture. When Zhao Ligong was about to rush in front of Yang Daniu, everyone thought that Yang Daniu would adopt a defensive strategy. At least, he would fight back after figuring out Zhao Ligong's strength. However, Yang Daniu was not willing to abide by the rules. He suddenly exerted strength on his feet and rushed out like a cheetah that was ready to pounce. Facing difficulties head-on was a real man. When Yang Daniu was facing Chang Baji, he didn't even defend. Instead, he chose to attack. How could he be sullen and defend when facing Zhao Ligong? Not only did Zhao Ligong's expression change, everyone else also turned pale with fright. This was too abnormal. Either a newborn calf was not afraid of a tiger, or it was absolute confidence. In the blink of an eye, the two sides finally clashed. Zhao Ligong did not cower in the slightest, nor did he change his strategy because of Yang Daniu's sudden attack. He still planned to strike first and take down Yang Daniu. Sprinting, leaping, and lifting his knee, Zhao Ligong crashed into Yang Daniu. Anyone could see how much strength he had. If an ordinary person was hit by him, they would probably be lying in the hospital. Yang Daniu had already predicted this and left enough space for himself. He calmly dodged the attack, causing Zhao Ligong to miss and almost graze his waist. At the same time, Yang Daniu threw a punch at Zhao Ligong's abdomen without hesitation. Almost at the same time when Zhao Ligong landed on the ground, Yang Daniu's punch was about to land. Zhao Ligong directly grabbed Yang Daniu's arm and exerted strength in his arm. His muscles tightened, making it difficult for Yang Daniu to move forward. The two of them stared at each other angrily. Zhao Ligong was full of murderous intent as he stared at Yang Daniu. Since the beginning of the fight, both of them had already felt that the other was not simple, which laid the foundation for the next fight. Yang Daniu's expression was cold, but he lacked Zhao Ligong's murderous intent. He wanted to push forward again, but Zhao Ligong did not give him a chance. He had to admit that Zhao Ligong's strength was very domineering. The onlookers in the distance were worried for the two of them. It seemed like a flash of lightning, but it was actually a display of their strength. If one of them was slightly weaker, he might be defeated immediately. "This Yang Daniu is not simple," Boss Hu said with a serious face. Qin Sheng naturally added, "Zhao Ligong is also very powerful. Yang Daniu finally met his match today. I wonder where Brother Hu found such a powerful person." Anyway, no matter who won or lost, Wei Li felt that it did not matter, as long as it was exciting enough. Consequently, Wei Li echoed, "Both of you are powerful, both of you are powerful." In the arena, at this moment, Zhao Ligong had already pushed Yang Daniu away. He exerted strength in the back of his right leg and moved forward again, smashing his arm toward Yang Daniu's shoulder. Yang Daniu felt that this was not exciting enough, so he decided to do something more ruthless. He also rushed toward Zhao Ligong. After dodging Zhao Ligong's attack again, Yang Daniu bent his waist and kicked toward Zhao Ligong's back. Zhao Ligong changed his strategy to defend after his attack failed. He directly hugged Yang Daniu's leg, intending to eat Yang Daniu alive with his superior strength. How could Yang Daniu give him such a chance? He suddenly bounced up from the ground and suddenly burst out with a series of punches, bombarding Yang Daniu's chest. Zhao Ligong's expression changed. He did not have time to react at all. After taking 2 punches, he roared loudly and used all his strength to throw Yang Daniu away. Yang Daniu did not panic. At the same time that he was flung out, he kicked Zhao Ligong's chest with his left leg. It was obvious that he used a lot of strength to kick Zhao Ligong so hard that he took a few steps back. Yang Daniu flew a few meters away and landed on the ground calmly. After that, he stood up and half knelt on the ground, staring at Zhao Ligong, who was not far away. Although Yang Daniu was thrown away in this round, anyone with a discerning eye could see that Yang Daniu had gained a lot of advantages. Zhao Ligong, who was on the other side, was not convinced. Boss, who shook his head somewhat disappointedly. At the same time, he became interested in Yang Daniu. He could not help but start calculating in his mind. Since Qin Xing already had Changbaji, could he poach Yang Daniu over to his side? That would definitely be a profitable business. However, he did not know whether Qin Xing would give him a chance or not. Qin Xing finally felt relieved. This Zhao Ligong seemed to be very powerful, but Yang Daniu was obviously able to handle him. Even if Yang Daniu really lost later, he would definitely not lose too badly. After all, they had just started fighting. Who knew if they were testing each other or if they were holding back their strength and so on. Zhao Ligong took 2 punches on his chest and was kicked in the end. At this moment it was a little painful to breathe. Obviously, he had underestimated his opponent's strength and was a little careless. However, it did not matter. Anyway, he still had time. He could definitely turn the tables. Just when he was pondering about how to deal with Yang Daniu had already charged over once again. Compared to Zhao Ligong's attack just now, Yang Daniu's speed this time was much faster and more imposing. It was obvious that he was provoking Zhao Ligong. Aren't you the king of soldiers? Aren't you very arrogant? Today, I will trample all your arrogance on the ground and let you know that there is always someone better than you. In this way, you will not suffer a big loss in the future. Yang Daniu suddenly thought of these words. It seemed that he had said these words to others in the past. Sigh. He could not help but praise himself. What a good teacher. Yang Daniu had already charged over. Zhao Ligong did not have any more time to take a breather. He did not want to embarrass himself. He could only bite the bullet and face Yang Daniu head-on. However, he was careful to guard against Yang Daniu's attack. This time, he chose to defend. This time, Yang Daniu arrived in front of Zhao Ligong. He was not as rash as Zhao Ligong just now. Instead, he chose to fight in close combat. Wasn't this king of soldiers very good at fighting? Let's see who was more powerful. This time, when both sides met, they did not have any intention to test each other. They just wanted to use their real strength to see who was more powerful. Yang Daniu punched, kicked, elbowed, shoulder-bumped, roundhouse kick. His moves were dazzling. He forced Zhao Ligong to retreat step by step. He did not give Zhao Ligong any chance to fight back. Towards the end, his speed became faster and faster. Zhao Ligong clenched his teeth and kept on defending. He did not let Yang Daniu take advantage of him. After all, in this aspect, his combat experience was definitely above Yang Daniu. Therefore, he knew how to defend. When Yang Daniu's momentum passed, it would be his performance. Zhao Ligong was waiting for Yang Daniu to be exhausted. However, Yang Daniu was also exhausting Zhao Ligong. Both of them were competing in endurance, to see who could last until the end. Yang Dainyu felt that this was very boring. What was there to defend? If he wanted to fight, he should just fight properly. Therefore, Yang Dainyu gave Zhao Ligong a chance. He took the initiative to show his fatigue. He started to reduce the strength and speed of his attacks. This made Zhao Ligong think that he was almost at his limit. However, he had to admit that Zhao Ligong's defense was indeed very powerful. He did not give him too many chances. In addition, his strength was very strong. Every time, Yang Dainyu would feel that he was at a disadvantage. Zhao Ligong had already felt that Yang Dainyu was gradually at his limit. However, he was afraid that Yang Dainyu was playing tricks. Therefore, he did not suddenly fight back. After testing Yang Dainyu's moves, he was sure that Yang Dainyu was really at his limit. At this time, Zhao Ligong suddenly took a step forward and directly inserted himself between Yang Dainyu's legs. He grabbed Yang Dainyu's arm fiercely and pulled him closer. He wanted to control the left side of Yang Dainyu's fist. At the same time, he hit Yang Dainyu's armpit with his elbow. If this hit Yang Dainyu's arm, it would probably take some time to recover. Outside, a group of onlookers also felt that something was wrong. Yang Dainyu had started to be at a disadvantage. Zhao Ligong was gradually fighting back. Boss, who was sitting on the fishing platform calmly. As expected, it was not easy for him to find a tough guy this time. How could he lose in this way? Otherwise, he would lose his face. Qin Xing frowned slightly. He started to worry about Yang Dainyu. He could only say that Yang Dainyu was very good at acting. Even he himself almost believed that it was real, let alone the others. Zhao Ligong's elbow attack was already in front of Yang Dainyu's eyes. Yang Dainyu was still acting. He struggled a little and wanted to step back. Zhao Ligong had already expected this. He directly stuck his leg on Yang Dainyu's calf, leaving Yang Dainyu with no way to step back. It seemed that Yang Dainyu was destined to be at a disadvantage. Right at this time, Yang Dainyu finally stopped acting and started to perform with his real strength. The hand that had wanted to fight back but was hit back suddenly attacked at lightning speed. It directly grabbed Zhao Ligong's elbow that was already in front of him. The power that erupted from Yang Dainyu shocked Zhao Ligong so much that his expression changed instantly. He did not expect Yang Dainyu to be so powerful. Could it be that he had been hiding his strength? Impossible. It was absolutely impossible. However, before Zhao Ligong could react, Yang Dainyu suddenly twisted his body forcefully. His whole body was like a fried dough twist, wrapping around Zhao Ligong. The softness of his body amazed everyone. Be it Zhao Ligong or the other people on the scene, all of them were wondering what Yang Dainyu was trying to do. Chapter 7:12. Chapter 7:13. That's more like it. The first chapter of the new year. I wish everyone a happy new year. May everything go according to your wishes. There will be many surprises for you this year. What Yang Dainyu had to admit was that Zhao Ligong was indeed very strong. He was definitely not an ordinary opponent, especially when his defensive abilities were especially strong. He did not give Yang Dainyu any chance to break through at all. To be able to restrain Yang Dainyu, it could be seen that Zhao Ligong was not an ordinary character. Therefore, Yang Dainyu chose to take an unconventional approach in the end. Otherwise, if they were to continue fighting like this, Zhao Ligong, who was born as a soldier king, might have stronger endurance than him. Zhao Ligong would only continue to wear him down, and in the end, when Zhao Ligong was exhausted, he would be able to find an opening to strike. It was precisely because of this that Yang Dainyu gave up on attacking and showed signs of fatigue. He wanted Zhao Ligong to think that he could not make it anymore, so he switched from defense to offense. This way, he would be able to find an opportunity. Now the opportunity had come. Both of them were very strong in actual combat and had been through a lot. However, Zhao Ligong was still a little lacking. The opponents he had encountered were mostly the same type of opponents who were good at life and death battles. However, the opponents that Yang Dainio had encountered were all kinds of strange and odd people. Therefore, he was more experienced. Therefore, when Zhao Ligong thought that he had seized the opportunity and wanted to give Yang Dainio a fatal blow, Yang Dainio also saw the opportunity. Yang Dainio used Zhao Ligong's body as a pillar and the arm that Zhao Ligong was grabbing onto him as a point of force. He twisted his ankle and flipped. Relying on the flexibility of his body, he suddenly twisted the situation and controlled Zhao Ligong. Zhao Ligong instantly felt that something was wrong. He knew that he was already at a disadvantage. When he wanted to retaliate, Yang Dainio, who had already regained his footing, was accumulating power. Yang Dainio's back was facing Zhao Ligong. He bent his back and bent his legs slightly. His lower body was stable. He exerted force from his waist and soles at the same time. He grabbed onto Zhao Ligong's hands and pulled. At the same time, he roared and used all his strength. Zhao Ligong, who was panicking, was thrown out by Yang Dainio like a kite with a broken string. He flew 4 to 5 meters away and then fell heavily onto the ground. Yang Dainio still maintained that posture, looking extremely domineering, like a long-armed ape that had just won a battle, insufferably arrogant. Everyone was dumbfounded. The situation had changed too quickly. Before they could come back to their senses and understand what was going on, Zhao Ligong had gone from having the upper hand to losing completely. And Yang Dainio, who was at a disadvantage just now, had won just like that. What Qin Sheng had done just now was so amazing. Even Wei Li, who was a layman, felt that it was too incredible, not to mention Boss Hu, Qin Sheng, and the others who knew the rope. It was even more wonderful than a movie. Boss Hu was the first to applaud. He was quite convinced that he had lost in such a way. At the same time, he had a whole new level of respect for Yang Dainio. He could not help but praise Yang Dainio as he said, "Awesome, awesome, really awesome. You have broadened my horizons." Qin Sheng let out a long sigh of relief. It seemed that he still did not trust Yang Dainio enough. Taking a step back, since Lao Chang had such a high evaluation of Yang Dainio and only allowed Yang Dainio to follow him to Shanghai, it could be seen that Lao Chang was clear about Yang Dainio's strength. Consequently, when Yang Dainio had fought with Lao Chang last time, he might have hidden his strength. Shen Kongwu and another soldier king, who were not far away, were already dumbfounded. It was so freaking awesome that no one in the entire training base could throw Zhao Ligong out after he had gotten close to him. It should be noted that Zhao Ligong's close combat and defense made it impossible for anyone to fight against him. However, he had been defeated today in such a way completely. Shen Kongwu could not help thinking that it was lucky that he did not participate in the competition today. Otherwise, he would have lost twice in a row. Last time, there was Chang Baji and this time, there was Yang Dainio. How could there be so many freaks around Qin Sheng? Of course, what he did not know was that this was just the tip of the iceberg of the powerful connections of the Qin family. Everyone thought that all the resources of the Qin family were concentrated in Siju City and that Qin Chang'an was the place where the Qin family was established. However, they did not know how many karma the old master had planted in the Jianghu in those years. Zhuangzhou, who was not inferior to Chang Baji, Mr. Ding, who had retired from the Jianghu, and Qin Changxing, who had not come out of seclusion yet. Who else could it be? Everything was unknown. It was just the beginning. On the other side, Zhao Ligong, who had been thrown out and fell to the ground, got up very quickly. His ability to withstand blows was also very strong. Consequently, this was not a problem for him at all. Zhao Ligong had been schemed against by Yang Dainio in such a way and had lost his face greatly. How could he let it go like this? Consequently, Zhao Ligong rushed at Yang Dainio again without hesitation. This time, he would tear Yang Dainyu apart alive, even if he had to suffer a great loss. Yang Dainyu was full of fighting spirit. It was rare for him to meet such an opponent. Therefore, he decided to continue the competition. Therefore, he also rushed at Qin Shing. This time, it was obviously like Mars colliding with Earth. In Boss Hu's opinion, if they continued to fight like this, it would be a matter of life and death instead of victory and defeat. It was unnecessary. Obviously, Zhao Ligong had lost. He just felt embarrassed. Consequently, Boss Hu shouted at once, "Enough!" Boss Hu was full of confidence. His roar directly shocked the two people who were ready to continue the competition. The two of them stopped almost at the same time and looked at the crowd on this side. Zhao Ligong gnashed his teeth and said, "Boss Hu, give me another chance." Boss Hu said unhappily, "You have lost. Don't continue to make a fool of yourself. Get out of here." Although Zhao Ligong wanted to continue the competition, soldiers were born to obey orders. After he had arrived at the training base, Boss Hu's order was the highest order. He had to obey it. Otherwise, he would have to leave here. Zhao Ligong turned his head and stared at Yang Dainyu. He was quite unwilling to admit defeat. It did not occur to him that he would lose to this seemingly ordinary man. His pride had been shattered in this way. Yang Dainyu said disdainfully, "What? Do you still want to fight? You are no match for me. Practice for a few more years. If you are unwilling to admit defeat, we can have a one-on-one fight in private. At that time, I will not be so gentle." It was obvious that Yang Dainyu did not want to admit defeat even though he had gotten the upper hand. This made Zhao Ligong even angrier. Qin Shing said angrily, "Dainyu, that's enough. Come back." Upon hearing Qin Shing's words, Yang Dainyu smiled awkwardly. He shrugged and went back to Qin Shing's side, continuing to be harmless. If what had happened just now had not happened, nobody would have believed that this guy was actually a master. At this moment, Brother Wu had a whole new level of respect for Yang Dainyu. In the future, it would be better for him to stay away from this guy and not to provoke him. He was no match for him. At this time, Boss Hu looked at Qin Shing as if he had seen a gold mine. He said happily, "Qin Shing, we are old friends. Don't hide it anymore. Are there other masters like him? Introduce me to two of them. I think you won't suffer any loss." Wei Li also took the opportunity to say, "Exactly. Lao Qin, are there any? Introduce two of them to my family." Qin Shing did not know whether he should laugh or cry. He said, "You too, do you really think that such masters are everywhere on the street? I am not a god in the great all-embracing heaven, who can only be found by chance." Boss Hu immediately shifted his attention to Yang Dainyu. He laughed and said, "You are right. However, Qin Shing, you already have Lao Chang. Could you lend this subordinate of yours to me?" Qin Shing smiled gently as he said, "Boss Hu, Dainyu and I are friends. He is not my subordinate. He just came here to help me. Moreover, Dainyu is Lao Chang's martial nephew. How about this, you can talk to Dainyu after I'm done with my business. If Dainyu is interested, I won't stop him. If he's not interested, then I can't do anything about it. After all, I can't keep Dainyu here." Qin Shing did not refuse directly, which could be considered as saving Boss Hu's face. After all, Boss Hu had said so. Moreover, Yang Dainyu was destined to leave. Even he could not make him stay, let alone Boss Hu. In other words, this was just an empty promise. After Boss Hu heard it, he nodded with satisfaction and said, "Okay. This is what you said. Don't regret it at that time. Otherwise, I will shed all pretense of cordiality." Of course, Boss Hu was joking. Qin Shing would not take it seriously. He just laughed it off. Boss Hu looked at Yang Dainyu with his eyes full of appreciation. He asked tentatively, "Brat, are you interested in working for me? I will definitely make you outstanding in Jiangsu, Zhejiang and Shanghai." "Not interested. Who knew that Yang Dainyu would not give face to Boss Hu at all? Or maybe he did not know Boss Hu's identity. Even if he knew, it had nothing to do with Qin Shing no matter how powerful he was. Boss Hu was defeated in this way. Wei Li, who was beside him, could not help but laugh out loud. Qin Shing could not help it. This was Yang Dainyu's temper. Wei Li hurriedly laughed and said, "Uncle Hu, let's talk about these things later. At that time, Lao Qin will definitely work for you. Let's talk about business first." Boss Hu thought it was almost time. After all, Qin Shing did not come to him today to compare martial art. Instead, he had something important to talk about. Otherwise, why would he mention the Wei family? There was a small lounge next to the training hall. At this moment, iced drinks and fruits had been prepared. It was too hot and stuffy in the summer. Fortunately, the air conditioning in the training hall was very powerful. Otherwise, they would have been soaked through. Boss Hu had already warned others not to approach this place. He also told his trusted subordinates not to tell anyone about Qin Shing's arrival today. Otherwise, no matter who did it, they would have to bear the consequences. Qin Shing did not need to think about all these. Boss Hu was very cautious. Even if the cooperation failed, he did not want to offend Third Master Wu. Soon, the crowd moved to the lounge next to the training hall. Only Qin Shing, Boss Hu, and Wei Li entered the lounge. The others stayed outside. After all, they could not let others know what they were talking about. After they entered, Boss Hu, who was a soldier, said straightforwardly, "Qin Shing, it seems that you have come back to take revenge this time. Moreover, you are determined to get what you want. You even used the Wei family as your backer. If I don't agree with you, will I offend you to death? I heard from Wei Li that you are not an ordinary person now. Even if the Wei family did not exist, I would not dare to offend someone like you easily." Wei Li smiled happily as he said, "Uncle Hu, this has nothing to do with me. I am just a matchmaker for you. After all, I know you. You can talk however you want." Qin Shing looked at Boss Hu and said, "Brother Hu, it is not the first time that we have met. You should know what kind of person I am. I am not so hypocritical." Boss Hu replied in a deep voice, "I know you were in the past. However, you were very ordinary in the past and did not dare to mess around in front of us. You are different now. Who knows what you are thinking?" Boss Hu replied in a deep voice. He did not lower his voice because of Qin Shing's current identity. After all, he was not an ordinary person either. Qin Shing was not in a position to explain anything. He could only say, "Since Brother Hu said so, I will not explain anything. Let's talk about the matter as it stands. In the worst case, we will not make a deal. As long as we are still benevolent and righteous." Boss Hu picked up a piece of watermelon and ate it in big mouthfuls. He asked directly, "That's more like it. Tell me, what kind of bargaining chip can you offer?" Qin Shing squinted. He could not help thinking, is Boss Hu testing me or is he asking for an exorbitant price? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.